Put on your mental track shoes and run with me. This is the Powwow with Myra. Welcome back, everyone. Today we have Jonathan from Dissent Athletics. Jonathan, thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you all for having me on. Appreciate it.
I'm excited to get all your fitness tips today.
Sure.
So tell us, speaking of fitness, tell us what you do currently.
Yep. So my wife and I own Dissent Athletics. It's a functional fitness gym in the DFW area. So I say DFW is we're kind of in between Fort Worth and Arlington and a bunch of different locations there. But so kind of centralized. If you travel on 20, you can come see us. We focus on real world type fitness. Not necessarily doing like a bunch of bicep curls and forward raises and stuff like that, but pull-ups and squats and running and rowing and different items like that. Personal training is a big part of what we do. We have group classes, offer nutrition coaching. Your husband Logan is a client of ours and has did some nutrition coaching with me for a while. So I don't want to take all the credit for it, but it looks pretty good. So I think we're doing something right.
I think you are doing something right because he was already in pretty good shape, but he definitely took it to another level. So,
Sure.
yes.
He also took it to another level though when he went to just the 6 a.m. class, and so I have nothing to take credit for on that. I think he might just be kind of a competitive guy.
Well, it says a lot about just like the community that you're
Sure.
building, in your gym.
Yeah.
And so, okay, how did you get into fitness?
Okay. Basically, when I graduated high school, a few different things happened, and like I think I was supposed to go on a certain like direction or course or whatever. So I grew up on a farm and didn't really have a computer or anything until kind of went to college. Like my own first computer was when I went to college. So I went and was going to work at a like an exotic game ranch. If you know what that is, like a hunting ranch. They have a bunch of animals from Africa or New Zealand and stuff like that. And people come in and pay a bunch of money to go like hunt them. So I was into hunting. I was like, hey, I want to check that out. So I called a place and they were like, hey, if you want to like basically build fence, you can come out here and like work your way up from there. And I was like, this is a dream come true. Like nothing ever sounded better. I was dating this girl and I was telling her brother, who was at the college that we were both going to, about this. And he was like, I'm not going to lie, that sounds terrible. He's like, I basically manage a part of the IT department. Why don't you just come work for me? Like, I can just hire you. He's like, you won't have to travel. You'll work on campus. You have an air conditioner. You don't have to build fence. He's like, come try it at least. And so I did that. And like that is a whole other story, but he was really cool. Like he was a friend of mine and he was super into fitness and working out and stuff. And so when I went to college, that's kind of when I started exercising. I played some sports in high school. I wasn't ever very good at them. I didn't like to be told what to do. I didn't like to work out or anything like that. So sports, yeah, didn't work out. But once I went to college and it was just him and I, no one telling you what to do, I was like, hey, this is like pretty cool. And then you start looking in the mirror and like you see like changes and it looks different. And I was like, oh, this is a thing. And so we did that for a while. And a couple years after that, he was going to go full on like bodybuilding. And that was not really my thing. So there's a couple of other guys I was hanging out with. They're like, hey, what about this CrossFit stuff? And so we went and tried that. And it was fun. Like I really enjoyed it. And I joked that the first time I ever went in and did it, like I walk into the building and there's a bunch of people doing like crazy shit, like handstand push-ups and ring muscle ups and all these different things. And you're like, oh wow, like I've never seen people do this. I've never seen people act this way. And it was awesome. I was like, man, I'd really love to be involved in this. Like I want to do this. And I figured everybody kind of had that thought.
Mm-hmm.
So I did CrossFit for a long time and talked to people, and turns out like most people just want to go exercise, or they exercise for their health, but they don't want to, like they didn't want a coach. And so I was like, oh, this is a thing. Like I've held it for a long time. Talked to Kelsey, my wife. We were married or engaged at this point. I'm not even sure. I think we were married. I don't know. Maybe engaged. But I was like, hey, I want to do this coaching thing. And so go get certified, have a job change, end up going to a place called Rocket CrossFit and becoming a coach there. 8 months later, we buy the gym, and here we are now.
In 8 months
It was, maybe a little
of
bit longer than that.
of
Like,
of that gym, that particular gym?
yeah,
Okay.
but I started there in April, and in February we bought it.
Wow.
So a little more than 8 months, 10 months maybe. But
So it really started like when you were in college.
yeah,
Okay.
and so I figure we're on a long form podcast. We can talk about it, huh?
Yeah, for sure. So where did you grow up, and can you tell me a little bit about your childhood?
Yeah,
Take it back and see how everything just kind of just transcribed to where
sure.
you are today. So kind of what built you along the way. So how did you grow
Yeah.
up, or where did you grow up?
So originally I grew up in a place called Spring Lake. It's way up, like pretty, not quite the panhandle of Texas, but pretty near. Maybe it's considered, I'm not sure. There's a population of, I don't know, right now, like 70 people. Like,
Oh,
not kidding. They had a post office. I don't even think it's open anymore. Like, I don't know if you call it a town. But we lived there until I was 8, and then we moved to Seminole. The reason I even bring up Spring Lake is while we lived there, my dad has always been involved in like the cotton gin industry, um, managing, doing different things with them. And so I would go with him when I was like 4 or 5. I'm going out and I'm playing around. And do you know anything about like cotton gins and stuff like that? Like, does that mean anything to you?
not
Okay.
really. So what? Yeah.
So there's like a cotton plant, and it
Okay.
grows like, have you ever like a cotton ball? You know what that, like,
Yes, like the cotton farms where
yep,
it's
yep, yep,
just
yep,
like
yep.
all white,
So you
basically.
take that, and there's like a thread, but then there's also seeds inside of it.
Mm,
And so the part of the cotton gin is to separate the threads from the seed, and the thread goes on to make clothes, and then the seed goes on to like make more cotton.
mm, mm.
And
And if you're gonna just kind of pull this
I'm
over
sorry,
like closer
yeah.
to, yeah, there you go.
And so
Sorry.
no, it's good. They would have huge piles of this cotton seed, and that's like big sand piles basically. And you go out there and play in them. Well, I go do that, and I come back in, and my dad's like starting to panic. It's like my eyes are all red. I can't breathe. Well, I'm having an asthma attack. And so we didn't know at this point, but I had like super bad allergies and asthma.
Mm.
And so from the point I was 4 until I'm like 7 or 8, I get hospitalized 5 or 6 times with uh, asthma related conditions. And so that was kind of just like something I always had or knew. Like, I think a big part of the reason I maybe didn't like sports or didn't play as many sports is because like I just had that. It was always that thing of that voice of like, hey, like you have asthma, and like it did affect my breathing and different stuff like that. I couldn't roll around in the grass or do different things like that. If you've ever taken one of those allergy tests, like where they like put stuff or prick your back with different things, I was allergic to everything, like everything that they tested on me. Um, and so for most of my life, like I was taking all these medications for asthma and allergies. With a big part of it's like high school and all this different stuff. Not really eventful. Kind of a troublemaking kid that didn't get caught a lot of the time. Yeah, it was fun. Like grew up in a small town. There's not a lot to do. We went hunting a lot, like shotguns a lot. It was a weird upbringing in today's
Day.
like day. Yes, like
Mhm.
I was 10 years old and would jump on a 4-wheeler with a like gun and be gone for 10 hours. I'm like, that was just super cool with my parents. Like that didn't care. Like it was part of life. So
It's
it's
part of
weird.
your lifestyle.
Yeah. And
Okay.
nowadays, like I would never let my kid do that. Like it seems nuts. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe when she gets to that point, it'll be a different story.
Yes. Okay. So you really just go and just kind of be with your dad. You're not really kind of helping, or
No,
were you
not at
actually
that point.
helping?
No,
No,
not
no,
at that
no, no.
point. No,
Okay.
I was just
But that's when you discovered you had that gave
yeah,
you. Oh,
yep,
okay.
asthma and all this different stuff.
Yes.
And so multiple medications, like the breathing machines from time to time. Why I bring that up is like when I did in 2013 was the first time I ever did like a CrossFit class, and I did that for a little while. Started doing the paleo diet, which is kind of like the way that they talked about eating, basically just eating whole foods. Um, Within 6 weeks of doing this, I was able to stop taking medication. And so, like, I haven't taken asthma medication in now 10 years because of like figuring out, like, oh, it's actually like maybe I am allergic to a bunch of things, but it's actually, for the most part, always been what I was putting into my body. And if I stop eating certain things, certain like breads and different items, then I don't have asthma and like I don't have allergies anymore. And it's
What?
like this is 13 or like, however many, 21 was when I started like dieting this way. And so for 21 years, like I take medication and I like have to live a certain like way just to like change a diet and do this. So that was like a huge moment for myself. And like you hear about people getting all crazy about diets and like talking about like why everyone should do it or what. 100% I was that person. Like it had just changed like my life. And I've gotten better with that. Like, you taper it down a little bit. But it just showed me, and like I think it started to show, or it shows that like it is, you don't have to do a lot. Like if you'll work out and eat right, that'll solve most of your problems.
How were you introduced to the paleo diet and like why did you start doing it? Who introduced you or why did you say, "Yeah, let me try this?"
Um, Mainly just I have a really cool college experience. Like I was working in the IT department, kind of like I mentioned, when there was a few older fellas, like 5, 8, 10 years older than me, and they took me in and like started working out with me and different stuff, and they would help me out with work. Oh, and I was like, I wanted to be successful. I wanted to do all these different things. And so as a student worker, they're like, hey, start doing this at work, start doing these different things. And then I get to become like, was a team lead. And then I become a full-time person. Like, so they were kind of helping me out in my career, but then they would take me out to work out and do different stuff. They just had way more life experience than I did. And so I was surrounded by folks like that. And,
Mm.
I started working out and I'm just like, I won't shut up about it because I'm a kid and it's like awesome and I'm having fun. So I was like, oh, I like all this stuff. And so they're like, hey, well, like, look into this too. Like, this is another big part of like CrossFit or whatever, is eating this paleo method. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I'll check it out. I didn't know what a carb or a fat or a protein was, but like it made sense to eat meat, vegetables, and fruits and do that. And you have like tons of results. Pretty crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So then you moved. Okay, so you moved when you were 10, 8 or 10?
Yep. Yeah. So around like 8 or 9, we moved to Seminole. And that is, it's a weird spot. Like it's a small little town in the middle of nowhere. And then we lived 15 miles outside of that. And so like I didn't have now it's a little bit different, but my nearest neighbor was like 2 or 3 miles away.
Mm.
And so it was a weird, like I was talking about, it was a weird upbringing of jump on a dirt bike, jump on a four-wheeler, take a gun. And you just had like miles and miles. Like the nearest town was 10 miles away. And you could just go out and do whatever you wanted. And so like it was strange. It was a weird way to grow up. I also think it was like, I guess, beneficial in
Yeah.
ways.
And so what would you do with your guns and these four-wheelers and
Oh, we had like like gun racks and stuff on them, and like we just go around and like if you saw a rabbit or if you saw coyotes and stuff, like try to
mm.
shoot those, or we just go out and target practice, like it was whatever we wanted to do.
Mm.
Like you go get completely lost and then like try to make your way back home by night.
How did you learn or who taught you how to shoot or how to use these firearms?
Uh, when we lived in Spring Lake, my both sets of grandparents lived there. Uh, there's two towns that like combine to make a school. So it's Spring Lake and then Earth. It's like EARTH, Earth, Texas.
Mm.
There's a population of like 1,500 there. But a funny little aside, when I met Kelsey, we were talking about my family, and I was talking about my uncle, and I just was like, yeah, he lives in Earth. And she thought I was being like weird and like saying a weird way of saying like he'd passed away or whatever. And
Oh.
so she was like, oh, I'm sorry. And I was like, what are you talking? Like, what? She's like, he like he passed away. And I was like, no, he lives in Earth. So it's a funny thing. But no, my mom's dad super into hunting, and so growing up, like that's what we would do. And way before like I could even carry a gun, I was out going with him, just like walking with him and doing different stuff as he would go out and do it. And so it was something I was super into, or at least wanted to be. And then when we moved to Seminole, my dad had quite a few friends that also were a part of the gin. They were into hunting, and so it kind of made sense that we all started like being able to go do that.
Would you go out and like hunting kind of trips and like, like kind of get all
Yep.
your
Yeah, and so
stuff
we
and
have
go.
yep. Me and a bunch of my
Fun.
friends, like it was because his friends, like bunch of them had kids around my age. And so we have what's called like a deer lease. And so like someone owns land and you pay them to be able to go out there and like access it to hunt on. Uh and we'd all share one of those. And so yeah, like every winter and then in the spring for turkey hunting and stuff, that's what you did. Like you and your friends and everybody went out and like you got to camp basically and go deer hunting and stuff. It was fun. It was cool.
So, at what age did you shoot your first firearm?
Shoot my first firearm, like I
Or
don't know, 4 or 5. First shot my I shot my first deer at 9 years old. Uh and so like but around like in Seminole, that's late. Like the guys that I hung out with, they're like, what do you like we shot deer at like 5 or 6. Like they're decorated woodsmen by that point. Uh
wow.
and but no, it's like it was fun. Like it was just it was a cool thing. Like you learn it was not ever about like killing. Like there was the things that like you get to do that, and like it, for especially for a kid, like you get I guess more adjusted with it. It's like a weird thing when you're a kid.
What did you think at the time? Like, oh, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna like. What was your thoughts
So like at 9, it was just like it's
at night? Yeah.
what my friends did, and so like I
Mm,
had to go do this thing, and then
okay.
like you pull the trigger and you get up there, and it was just like oh like something happened here. But luckily like there were like men there, and they could just like hey like it's all like what you're feeling is like natural. Like you shouldn't feel weird about it. Like we respect the animal. Like we'll eat it and all this different stuff. And so you get to come full circle around it, and then you
Mm.
get put to work. And so like there's a lot of things that have to be done. Like take the deer and like you have to take the meat and different items off of said deer. And so like you learn quickly about like work and chores, and people joke about like they don't know where meat comes from, right? Like it comes from the grocery store and plastic wrapped stuff. Like from a very young age, I was keenly aware of like the work that went into making like meat.
Hmm.
And so like I think that was a cool thing as well. We grew up around cattle, so that helped a little bit in that part. Uh, the fun part of Seminole though was with some of these same people, we got into shooting sports. And so shotgun shooting, trap, skeet, that was kind of the main ones. We shot some other games, but from the point of 9 until 18 every summer, like that was what I did. I didn't really play sports. Like I would play like one sport a year of some kind, not very well. But shooting was my thing. Like that was the fun part. And it's cool. I think that y'all recently went possibly. Is that true?
Hunting,
Shooting,
shooting.
like
Oh yeah, we
yeah.
did.
Are you
Yes.
pretty good?
Um, Not so much.
Okay,
Logan's
okay,
more of a natural
okay.
because we rarely go. Or we do some rarely. It's more the term. Sometimes we've been there here and there, but it's not a constant thing. Definitely never been hunting.
Yep.
But Logan is more of a natural. It's like he picks it up. We rarely go. We go and like boom, he hits his targets, his
Sure.
moving targets.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So that's so it sounds like you're kind of like a natural.
I
Did you pick
wouldn't
it up pretty quickly? I mean,
not the like the shooting part. The first year that I did it, I was bad. Like I didn't want to do it. I thought it was like not that much fun,
mm,
and get talked into doing it again the second year. Make it through the entire like shooting season, and the very last thing that we go to is like state. It's in San Antonio. That was our big like family vacation every year. We go to San Antonio for a while and go to the shoot. But when you go do that, a box of shells is 25, and so a round is 25 shots. And we're doing trap, and for the first time ever, uh, I hit them all. And so out of 50, because I was like 9 or 10 at this point, you do 50 rounds, and I get 49 out of 50 at state. And like I'd never even really come close to doing this before. Like something just happened that day, and like everything went well. I get third or fourth in state that year, and it's like, oh, this is a thing. Like I really
mm.
didn't like this, and from that point on, like addicted. It's it was a lot of fun.
Did you grow up with any sibling? Do you have any siblings?
Yeah, I do. I have one older sister. She's 5 years older than me, and then a brother that's 5 years younger, and another brother who's like 18 months younger than him.
How was your relationship growing up with your siblings? How did you guys do things together or not? Like what was that like?
Yeah, so like it was I felt like the typical like middle child. Like I know there was four in our family, but like there was my sister who's 5 years older, and like I love her to death. But growing up, like she was I thought she was the meanest thing that like had ever existed. Uh and like so she terrified me.
What did she do to terrify you?
She was just mean. Like she
Oh.
just like yell and like very intimidating. What's funny is I do remember like I don't know, like she's 17. That would have put me at like 12 or like, yeah. So like somewhere in that like 12 to 13 range. She was trying to like be a punk. And like, I think I was just maybe having like a bad enough day to stand up to her. And she went to swing a pillow at me. And I just remember going to block it. And I just like easily took it from her. And like in that moment, we both realized that like the power dynamic had just like
Mm.
shifted. And like things from that point on with my sister, very different. Uh, Once I got to like junior high, and like even some in high school and stuff. So this must have been like her senior year when that happened. But she would take me out on the town with her and stuff. And like from that point on, we were real cool. As long as she could like exert power over me, she was a little punk. Uh, and then my two little brothers, they were very close in age, and so like
Mm.
they were always doing stuff together. But like I mean, we were all like close.
Did they all go in these hunting trips? Were they into like
Not
hunting as
my
well?
sister as much. She's more now. Like her husband and like their kids and stuff are into it. My middle brother, not not as much. He didn't really dig it, which is funny because like he then went on to. He's the only one of us that like he went to the Marines and like did all this other stuff, but like going and getting dirty at the like deer camp, what we used to call it, was not his thing. So me and my youngest brother were probably like the most into it.
Mm.
And then even out of like all of them, I think that it was like it hit me the most. Like, and I think I don't know, I may have just had more exposure to it. I'm not sure. But it was like I really enjoyed it. It was like that was my stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So in high school, what was your life like? What was your focus?
Um, Girls and partying. Like it was. I didn't have to like for whatever reason, I didn't really have to try in school. Like I didn't study for anything. I ended with like a 3.9 GPA. I was in the top 10%. Uh, and that set me up for like not failure. I made it through, but didn't help my college career because like I didn't really learn how to study.
Mm.
I didn't learn how to apply myself. Like high school was just a breeze. Uh, I cheated a bunch, and apparently it was just like a not a thing that got picked up on. I don't know. But yeah, made it through college or high school very easy, but it was fun. Like I really did enjoy it. I don't know if those are the best 4 years of your life, like people claim, but it was a good time. Shooting, like that was my even then, like shooting was my thing.
Mm.
As we were going from junior high into high school, me and four other guys, like in my grade, won a national championship shooting. Uh, so like, that was a big deal. And we didn't even know this, but like when we came back to school the next year, like it's just a new school year where they have a banner of us like hanging in the like foyer, and like the whole school was like, hey, like look at these people and like what they did. It was like, oh cool, like well I didn't know that was gonna happen. And so like that was always my thing. Like I played football 1 year, I played basketball 1 year, wasn't good at them, like didn't really apply myself or try very hard, but I would shoot probably 1,000 rounds a week in shotgun shooting. Like
Mm.
that was my thing. That was what I wanted to go do.
Who inspired you at the time?
I I think it was just like I think it was one of the first things that I was good at.
Mm.
Because I couldn't really even flag football or different things that you play when you're a kid. Like I don't know if it's because I was told I'd ask. Like I don't know. I was never the best at them. It was never like the most fun thing. Once tackle football became a thing, like I was a little kid, and so tackle football wasn't really my jam. But shooting, like it was that was what I could do. Now looking back, I think a lot of it is I like the focus part of it.
Mm.
Because most of the things that you shoot, like you pull the trigger and then you wait 30 seconds to a minute before you pull this trigger again. And so I was very good at like go up there, like turn everything on, focus as much as I can, like hit the targets and then turn everything off and like just go silent in my brain and like I want to hear anything, I don't want to think any thoughts. Uh and then be able to like a minute later, boom, turn everything back on. And not realizing it then, but nowadays, like it was a very powerful tool that like I had developed. Like, hey, you can if you need to just like shut everything out and then like only focus on this one thing. And then I've just applied that to different aspects of my life.
Would you say that kind of taught you something about like discipline too?
For sure.
Because there's so much that goes. You mentioned like even when you went hunting, there's certain things you have to do after shooting your target, right? So you guys were involved in all of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so like I really did learn a valuable lesson about discipline as my senior year. Like I've graduated. No, I haven't graduated. I'm going into my senior year of high school. Uh I have and this happened a few different times throughout my shooting career, but I have not this like to this degree, but I have a girlfriend during the summer, and like shooting isn't really my priority at this point. Like I want to go hang out with her, do all this stuff, and so I'll go out and like shoot a little bit because my parents are like making me. But then I'm like getting out of there so I can go hang out with her. We go to a couple shoots and like I don't do that good, and my dad was never good at like like having a conversation, like it would just come out bad. He's like, you're like, you suck. It's like, well, what are we talking about? And so it was never really him as much as my mom would just be like, hey, I don't know if you realize this, but like the reason you're not shooting good is because you're spending so much time with the girl.
Mm.
And she's like, I'm not saying that that's bad, but like you need to decide, like, what is it? Do you want to like hang out with the girl or do you want to shoot good? Like you can do both, but you like right now you're putting like way more attention to the girl, and like if that's what you want to go do, then just like don't shoot. Uh, and so that was like a wake up call. I was like, okay, like I'll put in more practice, and then yeah, like you start winning stuff again. And I was
Mm.
like, okay, like it really is how much do I want to like apply and like put towards this. Uh,
Yeah. How was I mean, how was your relationship with your parents?
it's good.
It was good.
Yeah, like they I don't like it. We joke about it now. Like I wasn't a great kid, but I didn't get caught. Like I was very good at like not getting caught, whatever it is that I was doing, and like it's kind of a joke now. So I was sneaking out. I was doing a bunch of different stuff, and like my mom was just constantly telling like I was just an angel, and she's like, I just can't believe like how great of a child this person is, as I'm going out and like drinking and stuff. But it was like, other than that, like, yeah, it was always fine. Like, I say this honestly, like, I've never back talked either of my parents. Like,
Mm.
they, for the most part, if I wanted to do something, they allowed me to do it. And so anytime that there was something was a no, it was like, okay, like, there's something to this. And let
Mm.
me ask them why and like try to get like more elaboration, but I've never raised my voice to them. I've never done any of that stuff, mainly because my sister was a freaking crazy person. And I watched her get like spankings and stuff. I was like, no, like that. All you have to do is not act that way, and you don't get in trouble. Like, okay, I can do that.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. It's like, okay, she's getting this kind of treatment. Let me avoid that.
Yeah, but like she asked for it. Like she would go out of her way to be a punk, and so yeah, like I don't blame him at all.
So it sounds like you had like your parents somehow instilled like respect. There was respect
Yeah,
in the household. Like, was it just a thing, or did they expect certain things? Did they have certain expectations?
no,
Um,
I actually remember one time asking them like, "Hey, will y'all require us to call y'all ma'am and sir?" Like, cause I'd seen some of my friends' parents do that, and I just thought that was like such a cool like respect thing. And they were like, "No, that's weird." And at the point, I was like, "I don't think so." And then now it's like, "Yeah, I don't want to like make my kids do that." Like, no offense to anyone who does. If you want to do that thing, that's all up to you. But yeah, like trying to not looking like I think they didn't force anything they didn't have to. Like,
mm,
there are certain things that are like non-negotiables you have to make your kids do. But I think trying to be flexible on the rest of it, like at least for me, it goes a long way.
mm.
Um, from I guess the day I was born, like any authority like I have a problem with. And I'm just like I have to now that I am older, I at least can have the ability to like, I know that about myself. And so like, it's still the natural thing. As soon as something happens, I'm like, no, like if someone or something has like more power, it's like, no, that thing's bad. Like, I don't like it. Here's all my excuses or whatever reasons against it. Luckily, like wise enough now, I guess I can like, hey, we can talk ourselves down from that. But I think that was their thing. Like they didn't do any of that. My grandpa, though, on my mom's side, he was a big like inspiration. Like he was probably like he was the biggest influence in my entire life. Over over them before we moved to Seminole, he lived like two doors down, and so we spent a ton of time with them, and like that was I think where I learned like most of my stuff.
What did you see in your what did you see in your grandfather that
So he was like 6'3", a big guy, had like big deep voice, but was like super kind and gentle.
mm,
And so I got to watch just the way he carried himself, the way he was respected in like his community and different things. He was, I don't know, he was larger than life in like every aspect. He had multiple heart attacks as he got older. Uh, but after like that, I laughed because like after the first or second one, have you ever seen those big wheels that they put like telephone wire on? It's like a big spool of wire.
yes.
Okay, so for whatever reason, he has one of those in his backyard. Like he's out of the hospital from I think it was his second heart attack. Out of the hospital, so has the bandages like all over his chest, and is in his backyard doing balancing walks on this thing. And like my mom and grandma are about to have a heart attack themselves. Like they're losing it because they can't believe like what are you gonna like what are you doing? Like if you fall, you're gonna like have to go back to the hospital. And he's just laughing, and he's just like, oh, like I don't know, like it was like I'm not dead yet, and like so I'm gonna keep doing stuff. And it was cool.
Mm,
Like
mm-hmm.
he was I don't know, he was a cool guy.
What did he teach you any lessons you particularly learned from him?
I don't know about like nothing I can
Nothing
just like
stands
speak
out.
eloquently
No.
about. But we just his like his purpose, his joy, was like to be with his family,
Mm,
and it was like that's something that like I'll never forget. And like it's people talk about that kind of stuff, but it was like that's all you saw. He he worked like he worked a job, he would go do it and different stuff like that, but every amount of free time was devoted to like us and to like
mm,
whoever's around him. And like that was cool. On the weekends he would take like me and my sister, like we're 4 or 5 years old, like driving around, and like he would take us out and like first like sit in his lap and like steering, but then yeah, by the time we're like 7 years old, like we're driving cars by ourselves, like he'd be in there with us or whatever, like whatever, he just went and showed us everything, and like it was
mm.
cool.
Yeah, he was involved.
Yeah.
He was involved. Okay. Wow. Okay. So then you're in high school. What sports did you play?
And so like this I played football my freshman year, and then my sophomore year I played golf. Going into my junior year, the the basketball coach uh was like, "Hey, like I'm doing like the end of the year stats for some reason. Like I think of this weird thing. Like they took like our height and weight and all this stuff at the end of the year, like so like making sure that we're growing. I don't know, weird thing. But he's like, "Dang, Jonathan, like you're growing, like you're getting tall." Um, he's like, "Why don't you practice during the summer?" He's like, "Come out and play basketball next year, and like we'll have a spot for you on varsity." Like I hadn't played basketball in a long time, and but he was like, "Oh," I was like, "He sees something in me that I don't even see," and so
Mm-hmm.
I do that, and I go, and not only do I not make varsity, I'm a bench warmer on JV, and so like at the semester end, I was like, "No, dude," I was like, "This is not necessarily what like you told me," and like I was like, "I understand, like I'm not good enough to play." I was like, "That's fine." I was like, "But I don't want to be here then." Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so then my senior year, I played golf again.
Mm.
Golf was fun. Golf was just whatever. We would take hot beer, like we would put it in our golf bag and we'd have to walk the course, and like every day you'd go play, and we would just stuff like 4 or 5 beers in our bag, and you're drinking 80-degree Keystone Lights out there. It's not even enjoyable, but you're just a high school kid being a punk. Like, it was fun.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. Okay, so then you go to college after high school,
Yep.
and graduating high school, what were your goals? What did you want to do or think you wanted to do at the time? Because you still weren't in fitness yet,
No, I was
right?
not,
Okay,
and that was not even
a thing.
not a thing. And
Were you in
so
shape?
no, I was skinny, like,
Okay.
but no, I wouldn't, like, I didn't exercise, I didn't work out, I didn't apply myself in like any way that direction. And so
What were your goals? So you decide you're graduating high school, and what are your goals at the time?
uh, whatever the girl that I was dating was gonna do.
Mm.
Like it, I applied for one school, and it was the school that she was going to. Like, if I hadn't got accepted there, I don't know what I was gonna do. But like I didn't really, I don't know, I didn't know that much. Like it, this is a hard thing for people to like, I think, imagine. But we didn't have internet at my house, and so like when it comes to like looking at colleges and doing all this different stuff, like I don't know. I didn't know when to do that. Like, I didn't have access to anything. We didn't have smartphones. We didn't have stuff like that. Like, uh, and so I didn't. This is like I could have asked someone, I'm sure, but like I this girl was pretty cool, so I was gonna keep doing that thing, and uh,
Yeah, and even you mentioned like back then you didn't really have internet at your home and you didn't really know what to do. But even today, I feel like people have the internet in their hands, and I still find a lot of people still don't know what they
sure,
want to do,
sure.
right? So, uh, what would you what would you what do you think you would have done?
So
You know
this
what I
may
mean?
be,
Like,
yeah, this may be a whole other like a tangent here, but like I'm very, very much anti like college for the majority of things. And like I have a business management or business administration. I don't even know what the like. Never taken my degree out of the package they sent me to me in. It's in an envelope somewhere in like our house. Don't know, don't care. Like, never used it. I don't. I don't think it's worth going and getting like a throwaway degree. And like that's basically what I did. Like, there's no business thing that I learned that was. It's like the things that I've learned from seeking out books and talking to people and like doing different things on my own, it not even like not closely related to the stuff that like they taught me in school. Like they it I don't know. I had a great time in college, but the education part like really bothered me. It bothered me that they took attendance. Like I'm no, no, no. Like I pay for a thing, and like
mm,
all I want you to do is test me. And so that when the attendance got involved, and when like I asked them about it, because if you're gonna give me a role, I need to understand where like and why this is. And they tell you it's like, oh, it's for parents. Like, parents pay a lot of money for students to come, and they want to make sure you're going to class. Like, well, my parents aren't paying for this. Like, let's
mhm.
make a deal. Like, what are you talking about? Why do I have to come? So that it's punk behavior, but like, there should be reasons for most things. But anyway, no, I'm not into college. If you're gonna go, like, I think that it needs to be one of the big like colleges that means something. And get a real degree. Like, go do something.
So, but you graduated.
I
You
did
made it.
graduate.
You
I
made
made
it
it.
through.
Took 5 years, but I got her done.
No, that's actually pretty impressive, actually, because, even I it was sounds like it was kind of a blessing at the time that the girlfriend
Oh,
you
for sure.
had, went to college. So it sounds like maybe that was your motivation to go and be
Oh,
around.
no, for sure. And like to speak to like not having any motivation, my first semester, my major was physics. Uh, because I went to, I knew nothing about it, but my grandpa had mentioned engineering at one point, and I was like, oh, that's what I'm gonna have to do. Uh, it's how little I had looked into this college, and how apparent that became to my parents pretty quickly. So we went to college day or whatever, and it came time to declare your major. And I'm waiting for them to call out engineering. And it was at that point that I realized that the college that I was going to didn't have an engineering department.
Hmm.
Uh, and they're like, well, I thought you were going for engineering. And I was like, wow, I thought they had an engineering department here. That's odd. Like, that's weird. And so I ended up going physics with the idea that like I would transfer to tech and get an engineering degree later on or something.
So you did have some sort of
Yeah, I guess.
goal,
Yeah,
like,
but I didn't even know what it meant.
yeah.
And so yeah, I do a semester of physics. It's the worst thing that like I've ever experienced.
How so?
It just sucked. Like I had to do tons of homework. I had to really apply myself and like try, and like it was making me miserable. And if at that age I was good enough to be like, if this sucks this much, like is this what you want to do? Because it was not like I can work hard, like that's fine, but it was the work itself. And I was like, do you want to struggle over equations and like do this kind of stuff? And I was like, I don't think so.
It just didn't spoke to you.
Yeah, and I failed calculus twice, and the calculus is like an important part of getting through that part. And so that was also a very big part of me deciding on another major. And was like, hey, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I think there's like a more general one, or maybe they ask you or whatever. But again, like this is why there's two main reasons it took me 5 years. Like the only thing I ever failed was calculus. Like, but one, I would only work like 6 hours, and I would go work. I was working like 40 to 50 hours a week in college. Like I was making money, so I loved it. But then,
What was your first job?
at that
At
IT
the time?
department, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
And
Yes.
so that's this whole thing we'll walk through. But I took another. They had just brought on a border security degree, and I was like, huh, well, being a border patrol agent sounds like a cool thing. Never thought about that in my entire life. And so I do a semester of that, and so there's like 12 hours that are completely worthless. So that's the second reason it took me so long. I have so many worthless hours, like that don't matter for like school, but it was still the most fun semester that I ever took.
Why do you say worthless?
Because they didn't apply to like the actual degree that I got. Like these, like I got 12 hours over here in this thing that don't count for anything. Like, so if you had to graduate with 120 hours, well, I got 132 because these 12 just like didn't count.
Oh,
They don't.
okay.
The business does not care that I have cultural awareness. Uh,
Oh,
and
okay. Worthless in the sense of the direction you ended up
yes, that I
going.
ended up going. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. As far as life, they were really cool. Like I learned a ton of stuff.
Okay. What deterred you from it?
I think just because like I didn't really know what I was getting. I think like, and then my dad asked me, he's like, do you want to live in South Texas?
Mm.
And I was like, not really. He's like, I mean, there's like a pretty particular spot that like people live to do this job. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. I
Okay.
think that was a big,
That makes
like,
sense.
and I would have eventually gotten there to just like, hey, I don't think this is a career path that I want to go down. But luckily that opened my eyes like early
Yeah.
enough. I think after that I went into business and went ahead and like graduated out.
So with going into business, what was your thought of
I just figured like I always knew that like in some point like I would own something, like I would own my own thing. Like there was no way in my head that I could survive the rest of my life like working for a person. And so it was like, all right, like I don't know what, but I know like at some point I will do my own thing. And so having
So
a business degree made sense.
you were hungry. You just didn't know what it was, what
Yeah.
it was going to be
Yeah.
yet. You
Yeah.
were just
I don't
hungry.
even know if I cared. Like I just wanted to go, like I wanted to do it. Like I wanted to go do something.
And did you plan on like, did you think, oh, I'm going to stay in this town, or, so I'm going to do something in this town, or did you aspire like, hey, yeah, maybe at some point I'm going to move somewhere else?
No, I would like, and so I was in San Angelo. That's where I like went to school and was working after graduating college and everything. I love San Angelo. Like it's a freaking awesome place. And yeah, I don't, I think in my head I was staying there. Like I was going to be in that spot.
Mm-hmm. And that's where you were working at in IT.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And so yeah, throughout most of my like college, what I got out of college, and while like the degree doesn't really matter to me, the main things that I learned was from my job.
Mm.
And so I started out as a field technician and was pretty good at it, and got to like that's where most, like if you're a student and you're coming in, that's where like most of them go work. And then there's these different subsects that like 2 or 3 students will get to go work out because they're more advanced jobs. And I'm just like, I'm the person when you put me in a place, it's like, that's okay. Like only a select few get to go over there. Like that's what I want to do. And like from that point, like what's the next step? And so like quickly there was an opening in one of the like the networking department. Couldn't even tell you what networking was. I was like, yep, I'm going to go do that. And got the job. do that for a few years, and I do like very good at it. Like I would, I'm the guy that's like they allowed you to work 39 hours a week. You couldn't work 40 because that'd make you a full time employee. You could work 39, and so I'm coming up after work and clocking in. I'm coming up on Saturdays or after school. I mean, I wanted to be the best, and like I wanted to be recognized for it.
So when you started working there as a field technician, what were your job duties?
So basically, you go fix computers, printers, items like that for the campus.
Okay.
And I don't know, 20,000, 30,000. I don't know how many, just tons of computers and stuff. And like, yeah, that was our job, was to go out and fix them. And as the first kind of forward-facing service job that I ever had, and it blew my mind even then that like you're an 18 or 19-year-old kid paying to go to the university, and then that's like in turn paying for everyone that you run into that works there. Like that's how they get paid as well. And these people would have like their printer having an issue or their computer having an issue, and like call and like scream at a kid. Uh, it's just so mind blowing. And like
How did you take it? How did you deal with it?
I didn't well. But I've always been like, instead of yelling at the person, like I'm gonna take it so far in like the kindness direction, while like I'll give you like a bad look and like be very, very nice and smiling to you, just to like way over the top to make it super uncomfortable. Uh, and yeah, like, or I'll go above and beyond. Like, I'm gonna kill you with kindness. I'm gonna fix it so fast,
Mm.
whatever. Well, like, I'll just give you a new computer. Like, let's just fix this entire thing, and then like, hopefully at the end, make you feel bad about it.
That's a very interesting mindset and advanced, I would say. How was that born, do you think, that kindness? Because I mean, you're still young. It's not, the easy thing for most young people that age, I would say, would be like, oh, screw you.
Mm.
Like, oh, behaving, you're making me feel or trying to belittle me. Like, screw you, right?
But you get in trouble for that. And like,
Oh.
I really think a lot of it goes back to like watching my sister get in trouble for stuff and being like,
Oh.
okay, like that behavior gets you in trouble. And
Mm.
so if you freak out and like if you explode on someone, like you've evened it out now.
Mm.
Where if you explode up and like I don't meet you, and I'm just like, okay, like
That's
if you're a
impressive.
human, like at some point that's gonna make you feel real bad that you did that. Like you want me to meet you because then like we're cool. And I think like I don't know I don't even know if I knew it then, but yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, that's very impressive. Like I said, because it's not the regular, attitude or what
Yeah.
any person would do.
I don't think it's kindness though. Like I think it was a manipulative, like I wanted to
Mm.
win still, and I knew that this was how. Like
Ooh,
uh so yeah, I think that
that
was a big part of it.
competitive
Yeah.
mindset.
But no, yeah, and I just wanted to I've I don't know how much it comes across now. I guess we'll find out when we watch this podcast. But I have like a pretty a thicker like southern accent, and depending upon who I was like talking to at that point, I could turn it on more or less if I needed to. And so if you're like an older woman that needed something in the IT department, well, maybe it gets like a little sweeter and like a little slower as I talk to you and all this, and like it just eat it up. Like I realized, I like learned those things, and I just picked it up on it pretty quick.
You understand people, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I don't know as much now. It's just a funny thing, but at that point, for sure, especially in those dynamics, like I think there's something to like the sinister part of humans when like we're not nice to customer service people. Like it's I need a thing and you need to do it. And I think some people realize that and like they work to fight against it. And I think that some people like maybe they just don't realize it until like it comes out like in a more negative fashion. And it was a big part of my life to like try to get those people. Uh,
Did you have any experience prior to that that maybe made you understand that? Maybe at some point you did something that you felt uh maybe upset about, or was it just something you were picking up? Was there something like, because that's a pretty advanced.
no, like I mean uh like my dad and sister were both like always very quick to like temper a rage. Uh, and like that's I think that's it because do realize
Mm.
once you get there, like you lose. Like that's it.
Mm.
You can't think. You're like it's all over. And so it is like stay out of that. Which like I think it's supposed to be the opposite, but I was way better at it at 21 than I am at 31. Like at 31, I can get to that like place, and it's like, gosh dang it, like now I have to freaking like get it back out of this place.
Mm.
And so, but anyway, working there, get to the networking job. They actually make a new job, like a promotion for me there. So I do that. I do that
In
until
the field or the networking?
the
The
networking.
networking.
Yep. Uh, and so I stay there until I graduate college and have the opportunity to like basically keep the exact same role but become full time. And so on a
Mm.
Friday I left work, and on a Monday I came in. I did the same thing. I made 3 times as much money.
Mm.
Uh, and that was when like the real party started.
Mm.
Like I partied throughout college, but now like I'm in this. Nothing changed. I'm in the same spot. I got the same friends. I got the same job. 3 times as much money. And so we had good times. Like it was fun.
Mm. In this networking job, what were your job duties?
So if like we look around here, like all the look at all the wires connected, like that is basically networking. Like so, most of this stuff would have fallen under like the field services, connecting monitors, stuff like that. But when you're getting internet connection from one device to another, like that was networking. And then going up from there, I don't even know most of the stuff anymore. But like there's routers, and so we would go in and you configure, basically put code on it to tell it what to give internet to and what to allow that internet access to and different stuff like that. It was a fun job. Like I enjoyed it. I had access to like so many awesome people. I took the CTO. He was the chief technology officer. I took him to lunch for like a project in school we were doing, and I was asking him about the IT department. And like all I knew was my little like direct like to consumer job, where he's 6 layers of management above me, and he spends the whole hour talking about systems and processes, and I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like, dude, I don't think that in my head, I'm like, wow, I was like, wow, this guy is so far removed from what the IT department actually does. Like, he has no idea, like, what we're doing, not even realizing that, like, I was the one that didn't understand like what was going on. Like, I'm at the lowest level. Just like I was the guy that went and fixed the stuff, not like planning on how to not have it break again.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And so, what did you think at? It sounds like it was kind of like an eye opening that
well,
hour.
because 10 hours later, or 10 hours, 10 years later, when I opened the gym, and like we're trying to get things going, and like I'm doing everything, like there was an aha moment, and like I sat
Mm.
down, like I wrote him an email, and like we still like chat a little bit from time to time. But I was like, man, this took me a decade, like, but it was because even when he said it, like there was such a difference between what he was saying and what I thought, that I was like, there's something here. Like, I don't know what systems and processes, I don't know what this means, but there's like something here. And so it helped to later on, like, oh, I totally get it. Like, yeah, when your role, like where he is at, that's all it is systems and processes, and then figuring out how to make them better or not break anymore. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so that was neat. And like, that was the kind of stuff that you got to learn there. Uh,
That kind of says a lot to even just the environment you're in, because even sometimes when you hear certain things, they may not register, but certain things kind of stick with you that you don't understand. And so that's why it's very crucial what you tell young kids, because adults, they're obviously at a different level than students, even college or even high school, right? So whatever you say to them, it really matters, because they may not understand yet. They may, but if they don't and it sticks with them, it can definitely help them out in the long run. And I can totally see that because I can, as you say that, I relate a lot with certain things that I learned in the past that I didn't really understand. And then later I was like, oh, okay.
When I think what I'm about to say is that it's a it's something that I'm aware of it, but I don't understand it enough
Mm,
yet. But like that shows you the importance of incentives and like teaching your kids like just the like not the thing but the parameters. Like here's the outsides. Like that's all you I want you to know that. Like here are the two outside walls. Everything in the middle, like you get to kind of like more or less like go figure out for yourself. And because anything more than that, like if it's a wrong incentive and the person's good at the game, like it just sends them in a bad direction.
mm,
Uh,
mm.
and I don't know. It's just been stuck in my head, and I don't know enough about it yet to like speak more eloquently about it or like talk about how I'll try to shape that with uh our kids. But I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, yeah. So you're talking to him, and he's talking about this and about systems and processes, and like how does that help you in like in the as you continue in your career there in IT at the time?
Um,
Like did it
and for at that point, no, I don't like it. Really didn't, and it should have because I went from that role to go full circle. I went and managed the field services area, which is where like my girlfriend at the time's brother had been. So the dude that brought me in, I went and eventually filled the position like that he had had.
mm,
Uh, and so like what I talked about, like when I walk in, like I see the way things go. You went from being a field service to being a team lead, but then he was the boss of everybody. And so I was like from the beginning, I was like, well, one day I'll just have his job. Like that'll be the way that this goes, and like it did. And so I was like, oh, that's cool. That was fun. And so all of a sudden, I'm 24 and I'm managing 40, 18 to 22-year-olds.
mm.
Uh, and I like it was fun and like we did a good job. Like we got a lot of stuff done, but like going back, I would have taught them things. Like I didn't really teach anybody anything.
And that hour you had with the director, what was the purpose of that lunch?
I was in I think it was called a leadership class, and we would do different. She would bring in different speakers, and then we were supposed to go like have lunch with a leader in the industry that like we admired, and so I chose
Mm,
him.
okay. What did you see in him that you admired?
He seemed, I mean, like everybody seemed to like him. He was always very nice to me, um, and like all I really knew was that like the IT department was like special, and he was the guy in charge of it. So I was like,
Mm,
all right, like I want to.
okay. Like let's
There was
let's
a
dig in
small
his
part of my
brain.
brain was just like, and one day I'll have his job. Like I would like that would have been the goal if I think stayed there.
Mm,
Like
mm-hmm.
I don't even know why. I don't think I want that job. But I just want to be the top. Like I need to get there. And so uh
Yeah.
that was like that was fun. I did I wish honestly that I learned more lessons I think from like the management part. I was very much in a party mindset and like it was I we'd go to the bar like most nights and get home at like 1 or 2 in the morning. I'd wake up, get to work at like 9. I wasn't very early most days. But at lunch, like we're going out and doing like CrossFit or workouts and stuff like that. And like I I would go to work, like I worked hard, I would get everything I could done. I was working out hard. It only made sense in my brain to party that hard as well. And so it was just like these
It was like
diametric
your
forces.
was it like your okay, I worked hard, now I'm gonna treat myself to what I like to do.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it makes sense. Like at the time, and every life has phases, right? But even now, we have, uh, we work hard, and then we do things that we enjoy doing,
Yep.
and things just kind of change as life changes,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, no, it was fun. Like it was those were like some of the funnest years of my life, and like that was when Kelsey and I met. And
And you
so,
you learn people too by,
yeah,
you're going out, sure, you're partying, that's the reason you're going out, but you're also like interacting with people. You are learning to be around people and you just kind of become a people person.
yeah,
Yeah, right? So, okay. So, you mentioned you were working out. So when was the first time you said, "Hey, I'm gonna try CrossFit. I'm gonna try working out." Like, what was because you weren't really, I guess, into working out before you did. So, how were you introduced to, "Hey, let's come and work out or
yeah.
have a workout"?
And so, like,
How did that happen?
I was working out with these two guys that were like a few years older than me, and they started talking about CrossFit. And like I didn't even know and then they're like, oh, there's a CrossFit gym in San Angelo. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know that. And so that January they did like a discount deal, whatever, to come in and like join. And so I do that. You go through like the foundations class. I think I did a month of classes. A few years later, like another gym opened and it was like a bunch of like kids that I knew from college were going there. It was closer to the campus. And so I started going there, and that was fun. Like I did that for a while. Uh, I did some competitions. Like I did enjoy that part. It had just all of a sudden, like the fact that I like in my head, like it was always like I was a sick kid. Uh,
Mm,
I had asthma, I had allergies. Like that was the person that I was. You don't even consider doing certain things because that's just like not like I never thought about a hike. Like I never went hiking until I don't know, like 23 or 24 years old. And not that I wasn't into it or anything like that. Not even that like if I saw it or someone asked me, like it just wasn't that wasn't a direction that I looked. Like I don't do those types of things.
yeah. Did were you still taking asthma medications at the
Yeah,
okay.
until uh at 21, like I started eating this way.
And what kind of environment were you the conversation started of the paleo diet?
So I think just there was just like the next part of the path. Like I was getting very into the workouts, and I was like, I think you just start asking questions like, what's next? Like,
Mm,
how do I continue to do this thing? And
okay.
so it's like, oh, okay, well, if we're working out, like, well, let's start looking at our diet. Like, and it was like, oh, okay, like I know nothing about any of that.
And was this the trainer that or who was having these
I think this is me
conversations?
and just the guys that I'm working out with,
Okay.
because they've been like dieting and doing different stuff for a
Okay.
while. And I owned a home, and so like I got a kitchen and all this different stuff. Uh, I wasn't complicated about stuff. Like every night, I would make a meat with two different vegetables, and I would make a double serving. I would put one of those servings in a Tupperware. That was the next day's lunch, and like I'm for whatever reason, I've never, I guess, had like a big. I like food, and like when we go on vacations and stuff, that's a big part of our trips is like eating foods and like experiencing different things like that. But I don't think I'm driven by it in ways that like other folks are. Like
Mhm.
I think we all have our items that really draw us in. Uh, and I've just always been able to like, hey, for the next however long, this is what I'm eating, this is what I'm doing, and like I just do it. And like I'm not shaking or thinking about like having to go have another thing. It's just like cool, and this is what we're doing right now.
Mm.
So I was able to do that then, and
And
it was like quick. You just start like seeing stuff happen.
oh, and that even drew you more in,
Well, yeah, I'm
obviously.
21, 22, and then like all of a sudden, like I start to look like an athlete, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool." And then all of a sudden, I'm that guy at a party that just like somehow like there's a way that my like shirt comes off. You know what I mean? And like
Mm,
it helped, and it was just like, oh, like there's so much that was like reinforcing that behavior. A
right.
big part that when I go into the IT department, like a bunch of these kids just played video games and like it made sense for them to go work on computers. Like I grew up working on a farm and like working in a cotton gin. And so I didn't know what the work was, but I was able to do 3 times as much as them. And then I started working out and doing these things and like you get more energy and you feel better and like it just like, oh, I'm crushing it, working out and doing different stuff. if everything I do at work, I'm getting praised and promoted and doing all this different stuff.
Just
Like,
putting in the work.
yeah,
Yeah, you
like,
had great work ethic, sounds like.
and yeah, and so then, like that meant that you
And
got to go play.
you mentioned you owned your home, so you're 21, 22, and how how did you how did that come in? You know,
Sure.
most even nowadays, most kids think, "Oh, I'm not old enough to own or maintain or take care of a
Yeah.
home." So you're young and you're 21, 22, and you own your first. How did that
Yeah,
how did that happen?
I'm glad that you brought this up because I do also want to, as we start that, I want to jump back to you had a previous guest, Aaron Keefe,
Hmm.
and he had a great segment where he talked about I was going into college, if I was graduating high school, what I would do.
Mm.
And he talked about being able to like get a job to work up enough money to buy a home and have your friends move in. And he talked about like the whole house hacking process. Um, the comments that were on that video blew me away at how many people were just like, this dude's living in la la land, like this can't be, like this isn't possible. Not that it can't be, that they were saying like that there's no way that this is possible. And like that was the weird part to me. It's just how people viewed it. Because I was like, oh no, I didn't even know that was a thing and I did it. Like, what are y'all talking about? It's not possible. And so yeah, the whole reason I bought a home at 21 is because Samantha, my dog. And so like y'all have met her. I was living in an apartment that didn't allow dogs and knew like I was about to be able to move out of that and I knew I was going to get a dog. And so I start looking too early and I look at the pound and they have part lab, part blue heeler puppies. And I'm like, this is everything that I've ever wanted in a dog. And so I go and I get one. And I have like 2 months left in my apartment. But I'm like, well, we'll just like sneak her around and stuff. And like I end up doing it, but it was crazy. Like the amount of times that we nearly got caught, or like by the end, they basically just knew I had a dog, and it was like, guys, I'm about to move out. Like, just let me do this thing. But I like just what I was talking about earlier, having no ability to see into the future. I started like trying to find an apartment at that point, and like I can't, because I have a dog. And I'm looking at houses and all this different stuff. I have a little bit of money saved up just because like I worked all the time in like as many different aspects as I could. Uh, and one of the older guys that I'm fortunately around is like, well, hey, why don't you like look at buying a house? And he's like, my mom's a realtor. Like, why don't y'all just talk and like figure something out? I'm like, okay. Like, I don't know anything about this. I don't even know what these words mean. I don't know what I'm like nothing. But so I go with her and she's like, well, you can do FHA loan. You only have to put 3% down. So that's what that looks like as far as like money wise on these homes that we're going to look at. And I'm like, cool. And we go look at some houses, and it was whatever. Like I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know what I'm looking at. Like I'm just going. Basically, I'm looking at price tags. That's all I see is the number on these houses. So we do that. I get hooked up with like a mortgage lady, and we're looking, and I barely have enough money to make it happen, but I do. And this is how little I know about this process. Cause like we're done. Like I've picked out the house. We're good to go. She's like, cool. I leave a meeting and I'm like, I'm going to Vegas. And I'm so stupid. And she's like, oh, that's fun. She's like, don't spend all your money. And I just like laugh. Well, like all this money that I have saved up, like that's what it's for. Like it's for this Vegas trip. Like, uh,
Mm.
and so I think I've shown you that I have this pile of money. We're good. Like we're done. I've showed you the bank statements. You don't need anything from this point on. I go to Vegas. I spend everything. Uh, everything. Thousands of dollars. Come back. It's like Monday or Tuesday of that next week. She calls me and she's like, oh, how's everything going and everything? She's like, all right, well, you just send over your bank statements. And I'm like, well, I've already done that. She's like, well, no, I like will have to keep doing that. And like it's quiet and she knows and she's like, Jonathan, she's like, you didn't spend your money, did you? And I'm like, oh, I can't even make words. I think I'm just making sounds. And she's like, how much money do you have? And it's like, I was like, $37? Like, I don't know, like nothing, like less than $100. And she's like, oh my God. And so I had to go in there and so this is like you can't do it. Like you lost it. And so we start like
Were
trying to
you under
figure out.
contract?
I think so. Like I think at this point we're under contract. And my realtor calls them and basically it's like he's a 21-year-old college student. He's an idiot. He didn't know what he was doing. He can have I was like, hey, I can have the money in 2 months. Like if you'll give me 2 months, like I can have the money. And so she tells them that, and they're like, okay. Like, well, they live in another state. They're renting it out to a family or a couple, and they're like, yeah, like that's fine. Like we'll wait another 2 months if you'll make this happen. And so I'm homeless now. And so I'm hopping around different couches. While I'm going through all of this, I don't remember who brings it up to me, but they're like, hey, there's a thing through the city that helps low income people with their down payment. And so I'm like, okay, I'll go check that out. We'll be in like 21 and working like a whatever job like I did. I was low income. And so they help me out, and I end up, I do have to make the money, and I have to show that I have like however many months in reserve or whatever. But I bought my first home for $500. The $500 earnest money was all that came out of my pocket. The rest of it, the city of San Angelo paid my down payment. And then from that point on, I started making mortgage payments. And as long as I lived in that house for 6 years, they would pay, like I didn't have to pay anything back on that down payment. And so, like, was it a lucky deal? Yeah. Was I out there trying to make it happen anyway? Yes. Like, and so like luck is a thing, 100%. Like but you don't get to, another guy told me this, you don't get to be lucky unless you're playing the game. And so like, until you're out there trying to make deals, like you don't get to get lucky on a house until you're trying to buy a house. Like you got to go put that part out there first. And so like it works out. I end up getting to move in. It cost me no money. I moved my buddies in. They're paying my mortgage. And like, again, I just start stacking money. And it was great. We tear the house apart. A few years later, I move out. I keep renting it. Now I'm like making a profit off the house, living in this other house. I go through a few different things with renters. Like a couple people bounce out. I lose like a couple grand in rent payments. And it just changed my mind towards it at that point. But to wrap all of that up, what ended up happening was in the end of 2019, when I moved out, my neighbor came over and was like, hey, my mom is a older lady. She lives in another state. Whenever you want to sell this house, like, please let me know. I would love to buy it because I want to move my mom in here. And so I'm thinking about selling that. I just call him. I'm like, hey, man, it's not in great shape, but like, I'll sell it to you as is. Like, let me know. And so he goes over and he walks in and he comes back and calls me and he's like, how about this? And he just says a number and it's 10,000 more than what I thought I would ever make on that house. And I've done like, it's in bad shape. I was like, yep. And so sell that house. And that is what we used to buy the gym.
Wow.
And so like, I wasn't looking forward, but understanding that like when you are in college or in high school, like your number one goal as a young person should be to buy your first home. Like that is goal number one. Don't buy cars, don't buy anything, like buy a home. Like once you do that, the like money as a like just as a thing changes. Like just your ability to like keep it and progress it and do different stuff. Like it's so powerful. And if you can do it in college when you need less space and you can rent that stuff out, oh, like it's just a way to do it.
It really is. It really is.
One of the guys that helped me with this, the older guys that I work out with, his son just graduated college, but they, like he does some like fixer-upper stuff with his dad and everything. But yeah, like he house hacked his way through college, and like that is, as he's graduating, that's his career. Like he's making enough money doing flips and different things. And so yeah, like he practiced that stuff through college and like did all this different stuff. In a perfect world, he would have just saved all that money and not went to college since he's just going to do this other thing. But you know, whatever. But it's cool. Like that's a whole realm. Obviously, you know about this. But the fact that people came down so much on that message like I think speaks to why we probably are a country that's like the hundreds of trillions or whatever it is dollars in debt.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, not to mention, just kind of understanding like money and how it works and what it can do and, how to invest it and not necessarily like stocks or anything, but just investing it in your own life that
yep,
it compounds
yep,
later in life. For example, if you continue renting, well, for one, anybody can say, "Hey, you're out." Like well, say you're renting a home, we're gonna sell it. You got 30 days to leave. Uh, or hey, sorry, taxes went up, insurance went up. Now your rent is gonna go up. $100, $200, $300, depending. Well, nowadays, right? And that just that doesn't really create a stable environment for your family because it's uncertainty. You never know when somebody's going to come in and kick you out or increase your rent or something breaks down and you have to wait weeks, months. And so definitely, and you can't have a lot of times your own dogs that you
yep.
want to have.
No, but yeah, there's no way y'all gonna have Harvey somewhere. No one would let Harvey live anywhere. But and like past that, you're spending more. Like
Yes,
no one is renting a house and like not making.
for
Hopefully, like
charity.
yeah, they have to make a profit off of it. Or when the AC or whatever goes out, like you're gonna be without an AC if they're not making any money. Uh, and
Or
so
if you don't have a great landlord.
yeah, and that's like I see this even in talking to people. Like so, the money now. How do we want to put this? Like the idea of saving money is tough. Like to have a pile of 20,000, it's like, oh my God, that's going to take forever. Where the idea of like paying a few hundred extra dollars a month to rent, like that's not take, we'll just have to do that.
Instant
And you see that
gratification.
instant gratification. You see the same idea when you look at just like nutrition with people.
Mm,
The idea of going to the grocery store on the weekend and spending $200 at one time for your family, and that being all the food that you eat, that's hard because that's $200. Where you'll go out and you can spend 30 or 40 a transaction eating food, and like, what's not $200 though? It's like, yeah, but do the math. Like, you're about to spend $500 this week on food the way that you're eating, where like you could spend 200 one time, and like you're good. And like that's a real conversation that I have with people. Is it's like I can't afford to go to the grocery store. It's like the food that you buy somewhere else is the same food and another person is making it and then they're also making a profit off of that. Like there's no way that you cannot save money going to the grocery store. Like that's
mhm.
that blows my mind. But I really think that most of that comes to what the transaction is when you do it.
At the time.
Yep,
Yeah,
at that time.
for sure. It's because even then, like for example, you might have spent more when you switched over to this whole food diet, and maybe you were spending more. Maybe you weren't getting those delicious carbs that maybe you were used to, but that saved you tons of money in medication
Yep.
and having to go back to the doctor, and not just the medication costs and going to the doctor, but the time you have to go, and not only that, how it affects your lifestyle, because now if you wouldn't have discovered that, hey, eating clean and working out, uh, it's solving these health problems. Like if that would have been that if you would have kept in the mindset of, no, I have asthma, I can't really
Mm,
do these things, that would have basically crippled you the rest of your life, saying that's not for me. I was just born this way.
yep.
It's kind of like these contracts we kind of sign with ourselves at an early age, and it's about breaking that contract and creating a new one. You know what? Let me try this for my own health, for my own lifestyle, for my own future, and because that'll water down to your family. So that's great analogy there with the instant gratification there with the choices you've made and the lessons you unconsciously learned just throughout the way by being around the environment you were around. Because sure, you were partying stuff, but you were also very responsible, and which meant you were able to acquire these positions that allowed you to be with people that in some way or another just kind of affected your action, your
Yep.
choices.
Yep.
And that's wow. That's awesome.
I was lucky. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was
It
lucky.
was maybe some luck, but it also has a lot to do with you and what you wanted to do, and you were hungry. There was something you were, and having that competitive too.
Yeah.
I feel like that competitive, like just wanting more and wanting to be better, whatever that is, and you come and take things as they come and run with them.
Yep. And I mean lucky as far as like I got noticed and was able to like access and hang out with these older guys because of my work ethic and because of the things I was doing.
Mhm.
But I was lucky in the sense that I had a job that they were there. Like I'd got to meet them and like I got to do that. And like these three dudes were in my wedding. Like I have a text group with them and talked to them yesterday. Like they're still very much a part of my life. And it's just like, yeah, it was cool. If you were a younger person, the only thing better than Aaron Keefe's idea of buying the home and doing the house hacking stuff is like surround yourself by older people doing the things that like you want to do,
Mm.
that have families and like or family, whatever it is, like whatever it is that you want, like watch how they interact and how they do all that different stuff. But I want to go back to that. I was born this way. Like
Mm.
that is like that's the trap that I don't know what the percentage is, but I think the most like
Yeah.
it's like, why? No, I'm not one of those exercise people. I'm not one of those like whatever people. And so the born this way, I think sets like you see it in a few different aspects. And have you have you ever looked into like the like multiple different types of intelligence? Like there's like 8 or 10 different characteristics of intelligence.
No.
And so there's like IQ, which is what we test and do different stuff with. So that's your logical reasoning. You can spot patterns and different stuff like that. But there's also people are trying to make a case of there's musical intelligence. And so some people like they can just sing. They can just like they pick up instruments and like it just makes sense to them. Like if you give me an instrument or if I start like I cannot sing in the slightest. It's a thing that I know nothing about. Another aspect of it is like athleticism. And so some people are just like way more coordinated. They can from an early age like control parts of their body that like other people struggle with. And it keeps going. Gardening is one, mechanicking is one. And when you start to think about it, like it would probably make sense. Like there's some people maybe when it comes to mechanicking or like they've never went to school to work on cars or whatever, but it just makes like they just understand it. Like they can just get into anything and start making it. And it's like, oh, okay, so like that, I can follow that. Like that there's different things that our intelligence can like go down. When that's why some things are easier for some people. School is easier for some people. They have a higher IQ. Sports are easier for some people. They're like they can just control their body in better ways. And so they start to go down that way. And what I think is like if you view it as you're going to have strengths in these things, but all you have to go do is put time and like pay attention and put awareness towards like these other skills, and you will develop them. It will take you longer than the other person who is like just skilled at it, but you can go develop that skill. And like I don't think it's talked about very much. But I don't even. It took me a long time to realize like I wasn't good at shooting. I became good at shooting. I wasn't good at exercise. I became really good at exercise. And like I knew nothing about computers in the IT department and like work up to a management position. It's like, hey, if you'll just go like give to a thing, like if you just devote yourself to it, you will 100% get better at it. And like, don't worry about the timeline. Like it may take some people longer. It took me an incredible amount of time to become good at exercise. Like I worked out for a long time with a terrible form, not having any idea of like how to control my body, how to do different things. But then I started to get it. And like now I can pick up on things way quicker. I can see a new concept. I can put it together faster because it took 10 years. Like I've done 10 years of learning so that now my learning curve is a little bit shorter. And
you start picking up patterns and one thing kind of feeds into
yeah.
another, like philosophies type.
And so if you know like the whole Miyamoto Musashi, like once you see the way broadly, you'll see it in all things. Like I think that's what it is. Like time and attention is the key. Like whatever, like you want to have a better, like if you want to have better relationships, like you need to spend more time and like awareness towards that person. And guess what? That relationship will get better. Like if you want to, like whatever, you want to be better at golf, like the more you play and like not just play, but be aware of your play and like practice and try to get better, you will get better at the thing.
Yeah.
And that
That's
goes for
true.
every, like, so there's not a, is it going to be easier for some people who jump into exercise? Like, yeah, like, are there the people who start dieting and in 6 weeks they lose 50 pounds? Like, yes, but that's such a rare, like, thing. And then people build marketing campaigns around it. But it, that, I don't know, it bums me out. And like, I just hate hearing that, which is not the segue I was kind of planning on, but I do a majority of what I do now at the gym is working with kids,
Mm.
junior high to high school ages, um, some in the gym, but a majority of them off site at different like behavioral treatment centers. And so some kids have had problems with addiction, and so they're in a rehab. Some of these kids just have behavioral issues. Yesterday I went and for the first time worked with kids with autism, and where like that is the, you can't, it's so hard to influence an adult. Uh like we're ingrained in our ways and all
Mm.
this different stuff. But like a kid, you can explain this stuff to them that like, I know you're not very good at exercise, you're not very good at school right now, and I know you don't want to, but like if you'll put time towards it, I promise you'll get better. No one's told them that. Like people tell them you have to put time
Mm.
towards this thing, but like, hey, you will get better at it. And that's like, it's fun. Like I really have enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, yeah. It reminds me. I agree 100% with what you're saying, and a way. I mean, one of the ways that I try to explain it, at least to my younger siblings, uh, it's that it's like planting a tree, right? Like, if or anything, right? If you're planting a tree, or if, say you're planting flowers, if you're planting flowers and you expect them to bloom, you have to water them. You have to nurture the seed. You have to water it every day, and it's not gonna. You can't plant the seed and it's gonna grow overnight and you're going to wake up and seeing some beautiful flowers. No, you have to water it and you have to make sure it's in the right environment for whatever type of uh, flower it is. And it's kind of like we're all different flowers,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we all thrive in different environments. And it's about nurturing what it is that you're doing so that it grows. Otherwise, you can't just expect to try it one time and ta-da.
Mm-hmm. But it also speaks to the like the overwhelming amount of work that will be put in and nothing will happen.
Mm.
You have to water 100 times and see no results. And just like feel like a crazy person. It's like, I've been told I got to water this plant and I keep watering it, but nothing's happening. Uh, and then one day you get to like enjoy the fruit of your labor.
Mm.
Uh, I think another part, especially like when it comes to adults and like having a harder time of changing, hopefully, if this will help anyone, I think a big part of it, it's easier to tell yourself that you can't do something than to live with the idea of like that there is the possibility. And so like I utilize that in like a new direction now where it's a 2 sentence part. Like I am so keenly aware now that like I could go learn and do whatever it is that I wanted to do. So I had to tell myself that like, hey, you could go do that thing, but like you don't have the time. And so that like that's helpful. However, if you're on the other side of that thing where like you feel like you can't exercise or like you can do something, you're not that type of person. You just like like you're lying to yourself. Like, and that's the easier path to walk. Like, it's much harder to start telling yourself that like, okay, I am a person that can exercise, because then a lot more questions start to come in. Well, where do I start? What do I do? Why haven't I been doing this? Why do I feel the way I do when I start doing it? Why does it hurt so much? Why did I wait so long? Like, there's only one question, one direction, or 21, and so people are going to choose the one question most of the time.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. That I think that's a great point. And I think like us as humans, we're like you said, we're already we've adopted already certain beliefs about the world and especially ourselves and who we are that we can't be or we won't be, and sometimes I think even ego, like
Mm-hmm.
putting yourself in a situation where you know nothing about, where you have to learn, and sometimes that is hard, and sometimes I feel like it's we're comparing ourselves with others versus just comparing ourselves to yesterday. If we compared ourselves to yesterday, but instead of looking at others as a comparison, looking at others as inspiration. And, I think like one of those things, like when we gravitate towards certain things and we start seeing, oh, well, that's cool. Like, oh, I like how he looks. I kind of want to have that body too. I want to be able to take off my shirt and, be comfortable with myself. Sometimes that comes at a cost, right? You have to put in the work to do that. And sometimes the fact that, oh, I have to, well, for one, maybe I don't know how to, and two, I don't want to. I don't. How embarrassing is it that I'm grown up and I'm going to go to someone and I know nothing about? Like that's embarrassing,
Yeah.
right? So it's all that, and it sounds like ego, right?
Yep.
It's the
It
ego.
is. And I think that's the big part. And I actually, I'm not a great writer, but I've written a piece about this and how people say that ego driven people go to the gym. Like the only reason you want to look a certain way is for your ego. But my argument is it's your ego that's keeping you out of the gym.
Mm,
Because it's a scary door to open.
mhm,
And so it's much more protective to start making up other completely crazy things as to why you can't go do this thing. And that is your ego. It is feeding you what knows will protect you. The hardest clients that I have are those that are the most successful in other endeavors. And again, it's an ego thing because you are the top dog. You know exactly what it is that you're doing. You roll in and you're so skilled in this other thing, and you have to adopt the idea or the mentality of a beginner in this whole new
mm,
aspect of life. And it's no, I'm an advanced person. Give me the advanced diet plan. It's you are advanced in one area of your life, but you don't know the difference between a processed food and a whole food right now. So
mm.
you are a beginner in my world. I could learn a ton from you in the business aspect of things. Right now, you have to come learn a ton from me on what is food. And
Mhm.
those are that's the hardest thing to work with. Is to take a step back, to restart something. To as much success as you've had in your different endeavors, to sit down and start a podcast. It can't be easy. As someone who's put out stuff that like you do, you worry about the negative comment. You worry about the video that you devoted so much time to, and there's so much that goes into this, and then not enough people consume it. And your ego is well, you need to stop doing this. What are your friends going to think when every week you're
Mm.
taking time to do this thing, but no one's watching your video? And it's just this voice that exists. I'm assuming you probably had it and talked to it. And it's just like you have to understand that it's not real. Uh,
Right. It's our perception.
yeah. And no one probably actually thinks any of that stuff. And if they do, that person sucks. They've never done it. What do you it? And so you start to realize that most of your ego will project as itself, at least in my case, as what other people's opinions are gonna be. And if you'll just sit with that and realize well, the people's opinions that I actually care about won't have that. And so it's never mind.
Right. And it's a big thing. It's like leaving that comfort
Hmm.
zone, right? So it's like no, I'm good where I'm at. I don't need to go put myself in that position where I feel uncomfortable around. But if it's something you desire and you just shy away for whatever reasons you've developed throughout your life, and it's I'm just not going to do that. Or you know what? I'm just going to go to the gym and do my own thing. But you may not have the same results as somebody that did the work to learn all these things,
Yeah.
right? So, for example, like if I need even just an oil change in my car, if anything breaks down in my car, and I'm like, oh well, uh, yeah, I'm gonna try to do it myself, and that's gonna take. Sure, you may be able to do it, but it's gonna take time, right? Versus if you go with an expert, it's like boom, done. And even then, I had a conversation with one of my mechanics actually, and sometimes it's like people are like, "Oh, you're going to charge me that much just to do this?" Well, it's not just this;
Yep.
it's the whole skill set that they've developed. That's the value. It's the fact that because they went through the work, because they did their study, because they failed so many times until they finally were able to spot it on the moment they hear the sound. Oh, it's doing this. Oh, it's probably this. It's like that didn't just happen
Yeah.
because they're a genius. No, I mean, some people may be geniuses, but most of the time it's because they did the work.
Yep. They spent 24 hours struggling with that problem,
Mm,
listening to that sound one time or two times or however many times it took
hmm
to now they hear that sound. They're like, oh, okay, cool. Like,
yes, or
it's,
like if I want like nutrition advice, well, I know nutrition. I know I just gotta eat this and that, and I should be good. No, I mean there's so many different ways to eat, and I'm sure there's so many different uh just ways to go about it. That how would we know what our options are if for one, if we don't do the studying, okay, but if we don't do the hard work ourselves or the studying, and if you're developing a career, I mean, and you want to be an expert in, or you think you're an expert in every other area, like it's really a disservice
mhm,
because you're wasting time, time that could be invested in learning what it is you're good at because somebody else is going to need from your services, and so let other people, and like the last guest I had, he's a business coach, and I one of the things that even I made a connection with is like now he worked in the whole corporate world and now he helps businesses kind of grow, and it's one of the things he mentioned which is so true. um you know there's he's a finance major, right? So he kind of looks into all the gaps and how you can improve and propel your business. And like he mentioned, sometimes he talks to plumbers, for example. All they've done their whole life is plumbing, but maybe they don't know different strategies, different buckets, or he calls it levers you can push to move your business forward. And a lot of times he's like, well, I know how to do this. And what the connection I made was like, okay, you have your expertise on whatever, whether you're a mechanic or you're a plumber or you're an electrician, and you have a business and that's all you know. But then there's this other aspect on how to make it better. And sure, it's going to maybe cost you some money, but that's an investment.
mhm.
And I think it's looking at things from an investment so we can, like a partnership, like let's work together to accomplish this goal. And in every scenario is the same thing. For example, you being a fitness coach, and a nutrition coach, sure, I can do some things that maybe get me a little bit better, but if I really want to propel like as quickly as possible and learn like from the experts and keep like, instead of taking me 10 years to learn something, if I can condense that in a time frame depending on where you are at the time and the expert, it doesn't have to be 10 years.
Yep.
It can be a few months, years, whatever it is, however long it takes you personally, but it won't be 10 years.
Yep.
So and I think that's where the quality is for every person that has their individual career, their individual uh uh like their forte of whatever it is that they do, and they want to do something else, because our life is not just about our career. There's so many in health and fitness, it's huge. And health and fitness really helps you be better at feel better.
Yep.
And if you feel better, you can do better. Because if you don't feel good, well, I'll just sit down and just eat some popcorn and watch Netflix,
Yep.
like on, my whole free. I'm just gonna do what it is that I need to do to get that paycheck, and then just chill.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that is interesting. Like that, the fact that you mentioned that your hardest clients are the ones that, kind of think, oh, well, I'm so successful in all these things. It's like that kind of puts it out there where it's like it's just it's so eye opening to me even just hearing you say that, because it's true. Like it's true even for myself when I'm when I think about, okay, what do I want to learn? Well, now it's, instead of saying, oh, I'm just going to Google it because I have Google, it's like, no, let's go talk to somebody so that it speeds up my process. Because a lot of times it's the money, right? Oh, that's too expensive. Money comes and goes, but time doesn't.
Yep.
So that's huge. So I want to take a little bit back to when I think we started talking when you were a homeowner and doing the house hacking. You were 21, 22. Did you meet your now wife by then when you bought your home?
Nope. No. It was a few years after that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So how did you meet your wife?
Yeah. And so there was a bar in San Angelo. I'm pretty sure it's still there, called Fiddle Strings. And it is like what has to be one of the most dangerous things. But they have a pool in the back of the bar, and so that's like an awesome outdoor section. But then there's like a little 3.5 foot pool where they have like a net in it, and they do water volleyball tournaments during the summer. And so me and some of my other degenerate friends would go enter into this. You pay like, I don't know how much it is, like $100 a team or something like that. Well, then at the end, like however many teams, like all of the money goes to the winner. The bar doesn't want them, like they want you to come drink while you play. They're like they were killing it. They were doing good. But we got really good, and like we would win all of them. Like, and so during the summer, I'm not kidding. Like we would go make like $2,000. Like basically, we would drink more than that, but we would like cover a bunch of tabs just off of playing volleyball there. And so it was really cool. Some of the girls that were on our team were like, all of them. Every girl that we ever had on our team was like an ex volleyball player for ASU. We recruited. We did good.
That competitiveness.
Yeah, we wanted to win. But so one of the girls was friends with Kelsey, and so one day she just came up there, and like it was like one of those things. I had a girlfriend. She had a boyfriend, but like I sat down and like look at her, and I was just like, oh, like I like this girl. Like this is cool. And we're just having small talk, and she mentioned being a psychology major, and for whatever reason, I'd always been like, I didn't know what psychology was, but I was intrigued by it. And like I thought if you can manipulate or like try to have a person have a certain thought, like that's very powerful. That's basically all I knew about it. So when she said that she was like a psychology major, I was like, oh crap, like this is a big deal. Well, like we both were seeing people, but we like kind of hit it off, and over the next like few weeks or months, it was more or less like finding excuses to have like the whole group come together. And like we wouldn't necessarily like text each other, but it was like a lot of work going into like making sure that our groups were meeting up a lot. And so I break up with my girlfriend because like I was like obsessed with this chick. Like I wanted to be with her. And Kelsey ends up breaking up with her boyfriend. Like we went on a date, and that was it. Like 2 weeks later, like because we had been like, this is not great. Like we didn't do anything, but it was not like our whole courtship was like 4 months of us like
Flirting,
being around each other. Yeah. And so then like once we started dating, it was just like we just went into it. Like 2 weeks later, I went on vacation with her. And I just never really looked back.
What did prior to, or I guess you were in a relationship, but were there certain, even before Kelsey, did you ever think like, oh, I want, like I'm looking for certain things from a partner, like certain.
I don't know that I could have put it down on paper, but I would like get in relationships and realize that like I wanted more stuff, and like this is a crazy thing, and like I still don't know how. I think I know how I define it. Like a conversation I've had with like most girls, and like it depends on how your reaction to this is like matters to me. But it's like I always let them know like I do not plan on being ordinary, and I was like, and I don't think it takes that much more to be like an extraordinary person. And so like just understand like I don't know what it means or what direction it's going to go in, but like that is my goal, and like I want to like I don't want us to be a normal couple. I don't want us to be normal people. Like I want us to go out and be like extraordinary. Like let's do things that other people aren't doing. And like you tell some people that, and there's like this like nearly laughing look, like they've already given up, right? Like
they don't believe in
they've
it
accepted
almost.
their role in life and like the level that they're going to be at, and it causes like, I'm not kidding, it causes like great pain and anxiety and different stuff. But like I've not accepted that even now. Like Like I don't care to be like crazy successful or famous or any of this stuff, but like I know that there's more that like can be done and like can be doing. And so like that's a big part. And I knew in like with Kelsey from the get go, like that was her. Like
Mm.
she was going to school, she was going to get her master's degree. She knew what she wanted to do, the direction she wanted to go.
Mm.
And like very career driven, like wanted to go out and do stuff. And so it was like cool, like
And
that.
she was fun.
And she was fun. Yeah, we were having a good time. And yeah, it was a good time.
So 2 weeks after you go on vacation, where'd you guys go?
I went with her to see her friend in Florida, which is a great time.
Florida sounds like a great time.
I They never hung out again.
Oh,
Uh, so I don't like this chick had a boyfriend who was like a tool. And Kelsey didn't like him, but they one I don't know. I'm just a confrontational person at times. And it was like the third night that we were there and we were at the bar and like something got said and I just like I finally popped off and like it was I would not like I didn't even say anything mean. This guy was just talking about how awesome he was and I just like said a thing that like pointed to I don't know him being less, I'm not sure. But it like chilled the whole room. Uh
mm.
and even while we were there, like her friend didn't hang out with Kelsey. It was a weird trip and like that. I don't know.
But you guys were able to connect, I'm sure, at a deeper
Oh
level
yeah, we
because
had a great time. Yeah.
there's a situation that kind of things get kind of crazy, and you guys were able to kind of even understand each other
Yeah.
more.
And there was like certain times with our friend group, that it's not a nice joke to say on a podcast, but there's a dynamic in a relationship with one of our friends, and Kelsey threw it out there one time at a lunch or a dinner, and it like the fact that had the like she was ballsy enough to like say it in front of him, and like the whole place, the whole table goes quiet except for me, who like spits like beer up and just like crying, laughing. Just like holy shit, I can't believe you did it. Like you act like you went there and you said it, and it was just like okay, like yeah, I've met the person who's not
Afraid.
like yeah, I don't pick on people. Like that's not my thing is to like bring someone down. But like if you are the type of person who likes to try to stand tall among others, like
Or belittle others.
yeah, it's nice to like check them every now and then, and she's right there. So it's good. It's fun.
As if you went next week, you went over looking for the ring.
Just yeah, I was a little slower on that part.
Okay.
To the dissatisfaction of her parents, I think. So we moved in. We bought a house together before we were engaged. And because I had like I knew like we were gonna get married, and like I decided this was like a particular way that I wanted it to go. And her like sister had just got engaged. They had dated for a long time. I didn't want to like jump in and mess with their excitement. Even though like I knew it was like time for us as well.
Yeah, didn't want to kind of take from their shine.
Yeah.
Well, that speaks a lot of you, because I understand that. So that
was a big part of it. I was also like just young and like we were making moves. We both got new jobs. Like we had, I don't know, we had to move. It just made so much more sense for us to just like go do it together. Like we were going to be engaged within like not that much time. But yeah, so we did that. Not to the most satisfaction of her parents, and so like pretty quickly we got engaged, which is a funny story. I'm not good at gifts. Like I don't really like to get gifts. I'm not very good at giving gifts. The idea of picking out a wedding ring for someone, like that makes zero sense. I don't know what she wants. Like why? It's such a big thing. Why does the person who has to wear it not get to pick that out? Like that's a crazy concept to me. So I went the route of like the Quelo, like the silicone like workout rings.
Uh-huh.
So that's what I got her.
Okay.
For our engagement, with a plan of like, hey, like this is the stand in, and we'll go like as soon as we get back home, we'll go get a ring. What I did not know was that it was a glow in the dark one.
Oh.
And so we go on a family vacation with them to Colorado, and I like flubbed I don't do like an awful job with I was so nervous and like so I couldn't even make words. Like I think I just was like
Nervous.
offered her the ring, and I don't even think she said yes. I was just like hugged her. It was like, yeah, we're getting married, whatever. But it's like dusk, and like as I'm like holding it up, the ring is like somewhat glowing in the dark. And it's like I bought a like it looks like I went and did like the quarter machine thing or whatever to get her a wedding ring. It was just funny. Like it was a funny part. But then we went out and picked her an actual wedding ring. But no, it's been great.
But that was your way,
Yeah.
that was and I'm sure, I mean, that's how you are, and obviously that she loves you for who you
Yeah. No,
are.
I don't think there was any surprise from her that that was the way it went down.
Yeah, that's a good thing, that because you guys knew each other, so
Yeah.
it doesn't really surprise me. So you mentioned your in-laws were not so fond of that. How did you deal with that?
I've her like my father-in-law. I have a great relationship with him, and like was just like open and honest. Like I understand, like they're very involved with the church. Her mom's the head of a Christian school, and so it was like I'm not oblivious to like where you're coming from in this thing. And so that was my like I don't know.
Or you
It
just
wasn't his like it's not their place. Like and so I kind of knew that. Like I knew I loved Kelsey. I knew Kelsey loved me. So at the end of the day, like that's the number one.
Mm.
And then like I
Was there some sort of kind of friction when you get
no
no?
no he like her mom never mentioned anything. I just went and like had a meal with her dad, and it was just like we were just very transparent with each other.
Mm.
And he was like, here's where I like understand this is like my daughter and like this person that I raised, and I'm watching her like do this thing with this person, and like you're getting everything that you want, and like she has no like promise at the end of this thing. And it was like 100%. Like I hear you. Like I need you to also like I guess understand that while harder, like I am trying, I'm doing like what I think is right. Like if you'll trust me in this thing, like we'll make it through. Like we're gonna be okay. And I think it worked out.
So you guys, but that's key, because what you just mentioned is you had a conversation with him where it sounds like it's like you were able to hear his side and he was able to hear your side, and just kind of meet in the middle.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, what really mattered was happiness. Everybody, right?
Hmm.
Everybody just being together and being happy. And in that particular moment, it's you guys were just looking, and she was an adult too.
Yep.
You're right at the time,
Yep.
so she had the choice to say, "Hey, no," or
Yep.
"Yes," or. So that's a good story. That's a great story, because I mean, you hear the stories of like, oh, or everybody talks about like in-laws, oh, the in-laws, right? But it sometimes it's just a matter of having a conversation,
Hmm.
because a lot of times, and maybe sometimes most of the times, parents want their best for the kids in whatever way they think, right?
Yep.
In their mind, and sometimes, a lot of times, it doesn't things, if anything applies to anything, life doesn't happen exactly, doesn't unfold exactly how we want it to. But then the key thing is to not say, "Oh, I'm just not going to talk to them again."
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, I'm just that's it. I'm not going to, it's having those conversations to understand each other and figure out a way to live happy as a family. So that's props to you.
No thanks. When like I just communication like is a like in I get all of this like from Kelsey. Like it wasn't an aspect before her. Uh
Mm,
but then like in whatever it is that you're like facing, like it starts with communication and like because whatever you think like the other person is like thinking, it's usually not it. And especially in like this case where it would be like if you have troubles with the in-laws, like I understand at the end of the day, like these are two people that like whatever like all they want is the best for their kid,
mhm,
and you probably also just want the best for their kid. So if
mhm,
y'all would sit down and like start there,
mm.
let's start with what we both want. We both want the best for this person. Where are we having a disagreement on how we get to that? Because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Like one of us is doing a behavior that we think takes from, and like if we can just address that and like move on, and like then we'll be good to go.
Yes.
It, it that and that's in your like relationship with your spouse. Like there, we look for answers in articles or whatever on like how you're supposed to like live a life, and like you get to live whatever life you want as long as the people around you like are cool with it. Like I do think at the end of the day that is it. Um, and
Yeah.
so having that like as long as you and your people, if that's your spouse or whoever it is, like agree on whatever it is, like that's where it starts, and you don't get that
Yes.
without like talking about it a little bit.
Right, right. And if love, it maintains the principle, the core value of just love. The how, like you mentioned, the how is we can figure that out. The how, it can go many different roads, as long as it all leads to, love.
Mhm.
Whatever situation that is. So that's amazing. I'm glad you brought that up because it's so important nowadays. Sometimes it the struggle is having that conversation,
Sure.
right? And opening up and being vulnerable to just speaking up and
But there's like it's only going to get worse because there's not a person younger than us that didn't come up with conversations being digital. Like that's the number like if that was the first form of communication that like they have with people. And so it's only going to be like it's hard for anyone to sit down and have an uncomfortable conversation with someone. Like let alone when you're just struggling with sitting down and having a conversation with someone.
yeah.
And so like that it's a dying art. I really do think like having the ability to like talk to people. And especially in today's age where it's like
It's easier to type it.
but it's also like everything is like polarized. Like shit that shouldn't be in any way like uh that manner. And so like a really fun principle that I have like I don't get into politics. I don't play that game. I don't watch any of it. I just yeah, I don't know, don't care. Uh when anyone wants to talk about it like starting the conversation with them whatever we're talking about with like hey, you understand like both sides want what they think is right. And like that that stops this idea of like one side being evil. Uh, and like and whatever I don't think this is an interesting. Have you ever looked into like the idea of like does evil exist? Is this
In a sense, because I do listen a lot to Jordan Peterson,
okay?
and he mentioned one of the reasons he got into looking at everything he does was because he was studying like evil and like all like how that transpires, and then that kind of led him to kind of everything he does
Yeah,
today. So in a
it's just
sense,
like it's and that's another one of like the ego things. I think it's easy to see a group or an idea that it's not the same as yours, and instead of investigating and trying to find out like well where do we differ and like what does that mean, it's just easier to be like well that side's wrong and evil, and it's like cool, okay, we don't have to like I can just push that side away. um
yeah,
and I don't like I don't think that there is really very much getting decided off of evil. Like things get decided off of profit, and that may end up in some form or fashion like having an evil outcome, but like it wasn't done on purpose. I really don't think most of the time. um and in most like groups or discussions or whatever it is, if we can lose the like if you can lose the concept of evil and like just jumping straight to that conclusion and work like Jonathan Haidt is a psychologist. He writes a bunch of books and he talks about this idea of starting like s- start everything with where you agree, work back. Like here's the idea of
common
hot
ground.
topic conversation. What do we agree on? And then like as we layer it back, we'll start to see. And then like what it gets into is the whole incentives thing. Usually, like it's the way that you word it or that you put the game out there for people to play in a society, and like that's just how we want to like navigate through it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So you guys are getting new jobs, and does is this still in St. Angelo?
Nope. So I you'd asked if I like planned on staying in San Angelo. I was dating a girl before Kelsey, and the reason that we broke up is because she wanted to move to DFW, and I was like, "There's that's not a part of my life." I was like, "That's not," and I was like, I respect you, and I was like, I'm never gonna say like, don't not do this thing for me. Like, if this is what you want to do it. Like, uh, I'm not gonna do a long distance relationship, and it was like that. So that's like where we are, and so like it is like the place or person, whatever. Then you meet uh, her, and she was like, "Well, for my career, like, I need to go to DFW." And it's like, "Well, let's go." Like, what are you talking about? Let's go. Uh, I'd also right before I met her, a guy came in and he played on the competitive nature that you picked up on. So I was like happy in at IT department at ASU. I knew that like I didn't make a lot of money, but if I stayed the track, I would become a director. Like I knew the path forward. I would have a good life. They have a freaking great retirement plan. And so it was like that's a cool route of going. But this dude did sales and like sold some stuff to us, and I kind of knew him. And he was like, dude, you're wasting like your potential here. And I knew it, but I was like, yeah, but I was like, I'm having fun, like it's easy and all this different stuff. And he just like asked me how much I made, and he said, you want to double it next year? And that was like, yeah. He's like, okay. He's like, well, come work for me, like come do sales. I did that. I did like probably for the most part double my paycheck, but it was the worst thing like that I ever did. But it did like it allowed us to move, and like it got us a home. It put us where we needed to be.
And
It
that's when you called your friend to sell your home over there?
Yep. No. So at this point, yeah, we like the whole house hacking thing. Like, I'm living in a house, making enough money that like we were able to keep a home, keep it rented, and just go buy another house.
Okay.
And so then we're in this house. Uh, I guess the big part of like me taking this job that I didn't like it so much that is what inspired me to go get my like CrossFit level 1. That was what made me make the like I was like, this sucks. I'm not happy. Um, I made for the first time in my life a decision more or less purely based upon money, and I was like, I will not do that anymore. Like I like we've never made as much money as we were like that few years. And it's like, yeah, it's not worth it. Wasn't happy. And so leave that one, get the CrossFit thing, work at another job while I'm coaching. Uh, and then, yeah, it ends up that we have the opportunity to like take over.
Okay. Okay. So you guys, how long ago was that when you both moved to DFW?
2018. Yeah.
2018.
So March of 2018, we moved to Granbury. Um, Kelsey was working in, I want to say at this point, I think like Plano. Uh, Yeah, when like she had different jobs throughout the time. And like some like once it was at Crowley and once was in like in Fort Worth over by like 30. But yeah, for a while it was like a 2.5 hour commute. And I was having a long commute too. And so like we're getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, leaving, not getting home until like 7 or 8 o'clock at night, just like exhausted. We've sat in traffic for her like not getting like 5 hours a day of traffic. Uh our dogs, which are like a huge part of our life, literally watching their health degrade. And like it was bad, like because they were just stuck in the house for 14 hours Monday through Friday. They weren't able to go outside. They didn't do anything. They just sit in the house. And so like it sucked. We hated it. But being in a bad spot like usually inspires you to go do something.
So that you leave this sales job, you get certified. You get certified,
Yep. Well, yeah, I guess what do we call it? Yeah.
certified, and or in what you're, and then you become a coach.
Yeah, and so as far as I gotta be real careful with the CrossFit terminology today. You become a trainer. You're a CrossFit level 1 trainer.
Trainer.
Yeah, they have 4 levels, and you're not a CrossFit coach until level 3 is the way that they're very, very particular about this stuff. But so yeah, I became a level 1 trainer. There was a gym on my commute from home to work. My second day on the job, I stopped there. I knew of the coach because he started at the same CrossFit gym that I did in San Angelo. Uh, and so like, hey, like when met him, was like, hey, this is my name. These are the like mutual acquaintances we have. I do a class with them. Um, Talking to the female coaches afterwards, and I was like, well, I was like, I literally just got my level 1. I was like, I'm looking for a place to coach, and they're like, oh, that's really neat. Come back and like let's chat. So I do that. I become a coach there.
How long did you coach there?
Uh, until we bought it was 10 months.
Okay.
I guess we entered conversations about buying it like 7 or 8 months into it. But by the 2 month part, like 2 months into doing it, I'm coaching probably more classes than like anyone else there. Like
Mm.
you like here's the thing. Like, okay, cool, let me do it. I want as much experience as I possibly can. I coached like 1,300 hours in the first year of doing it, and that was like I had a job, like a full time job, and this is just like coaching whenever I could get around it. I loved it. Like it's all I wanted to do.
Oh, so you had a job and you're
Yeah,
coaching
in the beginning, yeah,
in the big, yeah.
yeah.
Did you know at the time that you wanted to maybe at some point have your own gym?
Yeah, my interview with them, I sat down and I said, like, I want to be a coach here. And I was like, I don't know if this will impact you hiring me, but like my goal with this thing is to own a gym. Like that's why I'm getting into this, not just to be a coach. Like I want to do this thing. Um, and I was like, so like, I guess what I'm telling you is like, I won't open up next door. Like I don't plan on ever competing with y'all, but like you were helping train me in how to go do this on my own.
Mhm.
And they were cool with that, which is what like led to like the conversations even starting about us like
Okay.
buying it. And so we had like a 5-year plan of like coaching and getting things set up, and then maybe we go do this. Uh, it was like things were going really well there. There was the opportunity. Um, we've been like always been like pretty financially responsible, so I had money saved. I had the house, so we were able to sell, do some things, like take out very little money and like go pursue this thing. Um, I didn't like learn so many lessons, right? Like I didn't have anyone come in and look at stuff. I didn't have anything like I looked at the books. I did all this different stuff, whatever. We buy um immediately, like I'm not making as much money as I thought we were going to be. And then 6 weeks later, COVID lockdown happens and we spend the next 8 weeks longer than we were open uh at home. Uh and like that is the like I've done like a few things in my life, like I've had some experiences. That is the that was the life-changing moment. I had done like I'd only had success. Everything that I'd touched, like I'd been promoted, I'd been praised, like it all went well. Everything that I'd ever wanted, I just like basically got. And so it made sense to make the leap and go be self-employed and go do this thing. And I knew nothing about that, nothing about like what that actually meant. And then to have it stripped away to where like you can do nothing, like you don't have a business anymore. Like, and uh, yeah, like I think that like I'd maybe not really noticed, but like had like depressive episodes earlier than that. But like as far as being like an anxious and like having high periods of anxiety and like very low periods of depression, that's when it started.
Mm.
Uh, that I knew how to go do and like just like get in the middle of something and like now there's nothing like you can't like I don't yeah I
Can't even
didn't
leave your
I
house.
don't know my members all like I mean I knew everybody from coaching and stuff but like I don't know how to provide for I don't know how to do like I'm like I'm just lost and yeah I get waking up in the morning and just like having no direction like nothing to go do and that had never happened to me like I'd never had time off and now literally have nothing but time on my hands it was bad like, it was very scary. They got all the PPP loan and like idle and all this stuff that like saved people and like did all this stuff. Well, we bought the gym, we started our LLC and did the purchase on February 7th. The cutoff for PPP was February 1st. And so, like, I mean, I'm talking, I called bank, I explained everything that I possibly could. Like, we took over like an existing business. Is there something we can do with that? Is there a way that, like, and the answer is just no. Like, there's nothing that can be done. We were 6 days off. It's like we didn't get the relief money. Like, we didn't get help. Not to get into specifics, but I made 5% of like the first year, maybe 2 years. Like I was making 10% of the money that like I'd been making in years past. It was like
Tough pill to swallow.
it was real tough. Like I didn't know we didn't have anybody. Like we didn't know what to do.
So what did you do?
It just showed up. Like it kept showing up. Like you just kept doing it, and luckily, we got to a point. Kelsey put into the search bar of Google how to sell your gym. Like that was like that's where we were. And a mentorship thing popped up. And it's called Two Brain Mentorship. And so she was like, "Hey, I found this thing." And I'd heard of them. And I was like, I was just bad. Like not kidding. Like I hated everyone, everything. Like in my mind, I had like follow your dreams was like that's what I'd done, and like I was punished for it.
Mm.
And we were also like it was the first time of like doing business stuff, and there's so much stuff going on in the nation. Like we did a this is like the polarity of things that I was interacting with. We do a workout for George Floyd, and I have members quit the gym because they don't think that that's like something that we should celebrate. We don't post a black tile for Black Lives Matter. People quit the gym because they think that we should post it. And so like both sides here, like we have people on the like far progressive side quitting and the far like conservative side
Your gym.
in a gym. And I'm like, whoa, like we were talking about the polarity stuff earlier. Like there was not a political thing that went through my mind in any of this. Like I don't like to each their own. I don't know how as a business like it would have helped anybody like me doing the tile. Like I'd never even had the thought. Like we have a diverse group. There's not a person that's never been like unwelcome at our gym. Like it's not a way that I think. Um the George Floyd thing, I thought what happened was like a tragedy. Someone made a workout, someone brought it to our attention. Yeah, let's put it on the board. And so it like we're starting to see things like that. I had friends who were like my friends, like we went out and ate with them and they were members of the gym. When then we become the owners and you don't give them special treatment and they quit. And or they start making rumors about how like you've changed and like all this stuff. And it's like it was tough. Like we lost friend group, we lost like everything. I'd never experienced death. In 2020, I lost both my grandpas. And like pretty quick succession. And like everything in my life was like just on fire. But so yeah, I'm done. Like I was in a really bad spot and didn't even like know it. So she finds this deal. She does a call with him because I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. Does a call with him. She really likes it. Has me get on a call with him, and I'm just pissed at the guy. Like I'm mad at the world, and I'm just like trying to understand how they're going to help me. And the when we bought the gym, they had already done one of these programs, and I knew that it went really poor. And so I keep trying to like make comparisons to these two groups. And finally, the guy goes, "Hang on a second." He stops the recording, and he's like, "I don't do this." He's like, I don't want it to ever be recorded that like I'm saying bad stuff about this other place or whatever." He's like, "I don't know anything about them except for the fact that we're nothing like them." And he was like, "I'll be very clear with you. Like if that's what you're hung up on, we can stop the call and like we don't ever have to do this. But like I'm telling you that we're not them, and so we can move past that or like whatever." And he like put me in my place. And I liked that. So I was like, all right. And so we started working with them. It uh it cost a amount of money that we didn't have, but like we were already in trouble. So it's like, all right, let's do this thing. Not advisable as far as financial advice, but we took a credit card and we swiped that thing and we started rocking and rolling. And it helped. Like that's why we're still here now. They put different things into play. They just teach you how to run a business and just change the mindset of what you were talking about earlier. Uh, I go to bed and like I'm able to wake up and like work the way that I do because I truly think that we help people. Like I don't think there's a person out there that won't benefit from some sort of like exercise or nutrition. I personally think that the way that we do it is like I try very hard and like I know that other places do. It's not to take away from them, but I know that what we do works and I've seen it happen, and so I'm very proud of that. And like that is at the end of the day, I'm helping people, and that's what I'm talking to myself about. But they help you understand that like your help requires getting paid like a certain amount. And that if you'll do things to be able to help people quicker, if you can help them quicker and if you can help them better, then like you can charge more. And like that doesn't mean that you're only interested in money. It means that you're interested in like helping people do a certain thing. So it helps you to start figuring out like who are your clients that come into the gym. So now instead of beating yourself up, we're not the cheapest gym. And so instead of feeling bad that we can't have everyone come in because some people just like actually can't afford it, well, cool. We're going to pursue people that can, but we're also going to open up and we do 2 free hours like in the gym every week. If you don't have to pay a thing, if you're in the area, you want to come by and work out, it's at this time, like you come do it. And so like it's cool. Like they help you understand and like be able to utilize and do things like that.
Push different levers.
Yes, how to turn different levers. I and like this isn't a slide against like CrossFit or a bunch of the different like there's a bunch of very successful CrossFit gyms that all they talk about, and like when you go get certifications, all they talk about is like, just be a great coach. If you'll be a great coach, like people will come. That is, I don't think true. Like you have to be a good coach, but then you also have to be able to tell people about that. Like you have to be able to tell people that you're a great coach, and like without just being like, I'm the best coach. Like, yeah, and like, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. But what it just helped me in realizing, like, I'm not going to convince every person to come to the gym. I'm not going to try to convince you to come to the gym. If you have a problem related to health and fitness and like you're open to talking to me about it, I can solve it. Like, if you're willing to work with me, like, we will fix the problem because most of the problems come down to like nutrition and exercise. And there's like no one that I have worked with yet has had to go do something more dire. Like, if you've done those things and like applied it correctly, whatever the result is you want, you got. Uh, and I don't have any secrets. I'm not an information person. Like, it's just seeing where people make mistakes. It's what you talked about earlier. It's I have expertise in this thing. I have dieted for 10 years. I have exercised for 10 years through different careers, through moving, through being a traveling person. Like, you I don't know the best way to work out, but I know the best way to get it in every day. And that's what matters. And that's where you can help people. I own a business now. I have a kid. Like the excuses, the things that are like keeping people out of the gym, like I'm not calling you out on having an excuse. Like it's a viable thing, but someone can help you overcome it. And that's what the expertise is. Is like, hey,
That's the value.
I have, and it's what you talked about earlier. I can Google this thing and go out and try to learn it, or I can just go talk to the expert. You can walk the same path it took me 10 years, or we can get there in one. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to take this. I took a 2-year detour down this road and I learned some stuff, but you don't have to do it. We just take my lessons. Just take the lessons and let's move on this other way. And I think a few things come into that. One, you mentioned investment a lot. Like, there's got to be the switch in your brain of like what money is and what it's actually like useful for. And like if you believe that having money is your ability to grow more money, then like investing is all you like. That's all you think. What can I buy to like to get time, to get resources, whatever it is. Versus like money is how I buy pleasure. Money is how I compare myself to other people. And that's why I need to drive. I got to drive this car. I live in a I live in a rent home, but I have $100,000 car, and it's like, man, you're sending a weird signal.
I think it points out the priorities.
Yes. So we have to view money as an investment to even go down that route. But I also didn't understand the value of expertise until like I became an expert in something.
Mm.
Um, 4 years ago, 3 years, whatever, like coaching, I thought that I was like an incredible coach, and like I had these few little things that I wanted people to do, and like it was basically I'm going to teach you how to go to the brink of death in a workout and like come back from that. Like I knew how to have people work out very very hard. Uh, that's not a very useful tool. Like for a little while, but having an expertise of like we train 85-year-old people. I yesterday trained a 13-year-old like autistic kid. Like it once you get away from trying to be fancy and just understanding like we will want to move our bodies, and like depending upon your ability to do that, like we can continue to go like add layers of complexity or whatever. uh that's what it is. Like, why do we do different things? You don't do handstand push-ups because like it makes you live longer. Like people do handstand push-ups because they needed a challenge to stay like involved in the gym. Like when things get boring, add a level of skill, and now it's like you just open a whole new door of like fun. And that's expertise. Like that's understanding when intermittent fasting is like actually helpful, and when you just read an article and like you think it sounds cool because it'll make you lose weight. Like you don't until you are an expert. Like you don't know it. Like I, you if you to go look at the presentation of y'all's like YouTube channel, like the way that it looks is just like, oh, you just go do that. Like, cool, go put up 10 videos and make them look the way and like lay out the way that they do. And like, it's not easy. There is an expertise to putting the thumbnail in a certain location and to putting it in a certain way. And the way that you like the words that are used in the description and whatnot. All of these things matter, but you don't until you have like until you have an expertise, you can't see expertise. I don't think. Like
Yeah.
if like you just see it, you see it at a certain level.
Yes. Yes. I couldn't agree with you more on that because I think going through those struggles teaches you compassion,
Yeah.
where you understand that hard things don't come easy, and when somebody's struggling, you can meet them where they're at versus judging. For example, oh no, well, that's you putting whatever labels or picking whatever scenario and putting them in a file cabinet in your brain. Like, oh no, this is just this versus having compassion to understand, to sit there and listen to somebody what it is that they need. Because I'm sure you talk to people with all in different levels of fitness or health where they're, so you have to in a sense kind of meet them
Hmm.
where they're at, and it takes compassion,
Yeah.
and that takes time. You have to kind of, for some people maybe for some people it may come more natural depending on how they grow up, but I think most of the time for most people it comes with your own struggles, and once figure out how to get through that, to get past that, and usually with that comes struggles, and then that I feel like compassion is it more than anything, it teaches you compassion to understand and others and be able to even the feedback you get, it's like, oh, they just don't know.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like they just don't know. And the people that have, like you mentioned, the people that have reached a certain level of expertise, it probably didn't just come out of nothing.
No, I don't think there's any like there's no
Pill
expert that has since like struggled more than you could ever imagine. Like that's how you become the expert. Like uh you don't just like there's not it's if you've ever read a book and thought you like learned something and then you go try to apply it and you're like, oh, that's a whole new thing.
Mhm.
Like going and doing it and like that and like making mistakes and understanding the path to not take. Like that's one of the bigger things is like starting to learn what to just not do. Like there's no shortage of like health tips on the internet and like you should just not do most of them. Like just do these few things and don't do other things and you'll be good. But to speak to the compassion part, yeah, especially in the beginning of like anything, all you can see is your perspective. And so what I knew gave me results was to like only eat whole foods. And so you want to come work with me on nutrition and like you don't cook any meals at home, but my first step is to start trying to convince you how to go meal prep and do all this different stuff. Like we've jumped 1,000 levels forward. I don't realize that, but this person goes out and struggles and struggles and struggles. They're doing their absolute best. And all I see is that like they're not doing anything at all. And so every week when it comes back to view, instead of seeing the small changes that they were making and like, hey, that's awesome. Like, let's keep making these small progressions. It was always like, well, you ate this and you ate this and you ate this and you ate this, and we have to stop doing these things. And like we weren't having results, and not very many people stayed on with my nutrition coaching. Uh, and you take a step back and you start like looking at the data and looking at this different stuff. And started a whole new approach out of nowhere. I was like, I'm going to work with people, and for the first 4 weeks, we're just going to remove an item. And so like I started doing that. Okay, let's sit down, track all your food. Let me see it. I'll look at the worst offender, and it's like, hey, for the next week, try to not do that. And it's like, okay. And it's like, what about other stuff? Like, no, no, don't worry about anything else. Eat whatever you want. Just don't eat this thing. And they're like, okay. And it comes back and it's like pretty good. And it's like, cool. Keep not eating that. Don't eat this. And you keep doing that. And after a few weeks, like they've given up more than they ever thought that they would as far as of diet. But it wasn't
Mhm.
painful because it was just like a one little thing at a time. Um, and it's like, oh, okay. Like, and so you learn that thing and you start picking up on different ways to like learn and interact with people.
Yeah, because I feel like it's like one of the hardest things to change your lifestyle. It's basically you're changing your habits, right? So when you change when changing your habits, it's not like, oh, I'm going to try a new thing. Trying the new thing is not the biggest challenge. I feel like and just speaking from personal experience, I feel like the biggest struggle, it's not doing what you've done the past several years,
Yep.
breaking that.
Yep. Not
One,
doing.
not doing, yes. And then once, and as you start developing better habits, and it's like you start, that's when and it's all slowly, right? It's not like, oh, you're going to come take a nutrition class and, by next week, you're going to be an expert. It takes time because you have to break those old habits and learn to incorporate these new habits. And if these new habits and the old habits and new habits affect everybody at home, well, it's not just you, is it's also everybody else at home. So that's a
Yep.
huge,
That's a lot of habits. Uh, and so,
and it's hard to do that alone. And
oh, for sure.
it's hard to do it alone, and which is that's where the value is with a coach, is not only just their knowledge, but it's also like the accountability and coming back and checking in and almost like you mentioned at some point you didn't have a direction. It's having a
Yep.
direction.
Yep. Yeah. Have it knowing that at least the direction you should be walking. Like, that's such a big part of it. Jonathan Haidt, the guy I mentioned earlier, as far that's an author. He wrote a book called The Happiness Hypothesis, and in the beginning of it, he talks about the idea of how your brain works. And so your subconscious is like what, not your subconscious, your prefrontal cortex is what, like, that's the voice you hear, and that's the like the thoughts and planning and different stuff. That is the like executive control. And if you're not careful, you can convince yourself that that's like the part of your brain that controls everything, but it's really not. That's the rider. When you have all these older parts of your brain. And so, like, if you look at the human brain, it all starts at your brainstem. And that's actually like the oldest formation as far as evolution goes. That's where the brainstem goes. And as a human, like, we've continued to add like new parts. And that's why we're like differentiated. But the last part was the prefrontal cortex. This matters as far as like our behaviors as well. And so, the rider and the elephant, when you go to India and you watch people ride on elephants, it appears as if the guy on top of the elephant is the one guiding it. But if at any point that elephant decided to go a direction that it wanted to go or do something, it's going to do that thing. Like, the rider cannot stop the elephant. And so that is your brain and your behaviors. We can look and decide, I'm going to do a diet and I'm going to lay it all out. And here's the things that need to happen and when I need to cook my food. And like, you're laying out the habits that need to happen for you to be able to go do this thing. The rider is fully into it. They're ready to rock and roll. And you start going with it. The rider's cool. He wants to do this thing, but the elephant remembers all these old habits that used to be here. It takes him a lot longer to like move over. And so you were fighting the thing that wants to do it, and the thing that's reasonable is like, yeah, we can go do this thing. But all these old habits, this elephant won't allow it to happen. Like, it's like, no, I can't move that fast. Like, you're trying to do so much more than like I'm ready to do. And this creates a struggle. And that's why people it's so easy to get amped up and read something or do something and be like, yes, I'm starting this. But then once you start doing it, it's so hard because like the executive control is in. We're ready to do this thing. The CEO has made a decision for the company. The 1,000 employees though are like, they got to go out and get it done. Like, you got to give them time to like for everybody to catch up. And that idea, it helped me a lot in deciding, like, because I don't know how many times you've done it. I've done it 1,000 times in my life. Of you learn something, or you see something. I want to go do this thing. I want to complete this project. You can be super excited and write it all out, and it's all there. And then the execution part's what's freaking hard about it. And that's the rider and the elephant. Like, that is doing that. And so viewing the rider as like, I don't like the word manipulation, but like, you just try to coerce the elephant and try to trick it. Like, you start adding in like one little thing, and like the elephant can do one, and like you just keep adding onto it.
That I love that. I love that
It's really
analogy.
cool. It's helped. Like, it helped me a lot.
It puts it into perspective. And in a sense, it kind of takes some weight off your shoulders,
Mhm.
like understanding that even before you start, like, hey, this is a route, but I know I'm gonna hit some bumps. I know there's gonna be, hills and valleys in this road that I'm gonna have to learn to navigate through to get to the other side.
Yeah.
And I love that analogy. Actually, it makes 100% sense, and it does add a layer of perspective, a different way to see things in life. I
Well, like the first time I started exercising, I didn't just from that point on continue. Like I would stop at times and take months off or whatever, and then you get back going. And with diets, you would be really strict for a while, and then you start adding in some other stuff, and before you know it, you're eating all willy nilly or whatever. And like, with people view that as like, oh, they tried an exercise routine or they tried a diet and they failed and they quit, and like, I just can't do that. And it's like, no, like the majority of people in our gym, even like I bet this isn't their first attempt. Like I know from talking to most of them, it's not. Like this is their fifth or sixth time in trying to do something. And like one, we understand that's we have the accountability piece, and that's like the big difference in how we keep people going along. But uh, like that's everyone's path and everyone's like transition. Like you try to do way too much in the beginning and you fail at it, but maybe hopefully you learn like a few aspects of it. So the next time you come in, you try to do it again. You already have this core, and so you just get to like add to it. And before long, like all these behaviors start matching up. Um,
yeah,
However, if I had done all of that stuff from the beginning with like an actual coach, then I probably wouldn't have had to do all of that. Like
not as many
not as many
as
times. Like I would have known why it is that I'm doing it, how to make it more sustainable, and like keep pushing forward.
definitely. What a lot of times what I when I think about it, it's like three kinds of thinking, right? Like or three kinds of people. It's one, you want to do something and somebody tells you, "Hey, don't do this, this, or this." And they're like, "Okay, I'm going to do what they said and I'm not going to do it." Okay, good. That's one, that's somebody I would consider like smart, right? And then there's the other person that's like, "Okay, well, you just told me this. I don't know. I'm going to go test it." And sometimes that's a good thing.
Sure, sometimes.
I'm going to go test it out, and then they discovered, yeah, I shouldn't have done what they said, and then they don't do it again. Okay,
Yeah.
I learned my lesson.
Now you know for sure. Oh, I see. I see
Right.
why we don't do
Oh, I see.
that.
Okay, now I know. And then there's the other person that it's like they've been told, they've done it, but then they continue doing it.
When that's a big like I don't know if you've ever heard or seen it like it's fine to fail, but like quitting is like the bad part if it's like what you
Mm,
want to do.
mm, yes.
And because there are like that's the tough part. Um, when you're beginning something new, like you were gonna like you have to have the failures. Like if it, and there's the I guess like
It's like walking. I feel like a lot of times I bring it to the analogy of walking. It's like you weren't just born, and even I see it now with my daughter. You weren't just born learning how to walk, or when you took a few steps, it's not like, oh yeah, boom, I took my first 2, 3 steps. Now I'm good. I'm never gonna fall again. Kids fall thousands of times before they can walk without falling down.
yeah.
And so I think that a lot about life. It's like you're gonna fall a lot because you weren't born an expert. So the the key is, are you gonna get up and try it again until you figure out how not to make those fall again in that aspect, right? So it's funny, like a lot of things kind of come a full circle, and a lot of things kind of like they just the perspectives, I guess. A lot of different things kind of come in a full circle where it gives you a perspective of, oh, yes,
hmm
yes.
and that's like just an interesting like when it comes to coaching like uh one of the kids that I train is in high school, and we've worked together like 3 times a week for the past 4 years or whatever. And so he was young enough and like he wanted to be like an athlete. And so we just had the conversation of like not for some people when you were bringing him into the gym, like every day the goal is to be fun. And like he has a brother that comes in. I was like, your brother's goal, like it is for him to have fun when he comes in here. Like if you want to do this thing, like our goal is to get fit. Like we need to do these things. And so he was like, he was in. And I taught him concepts. And it got to a point where he's such a good learner that some of the ways that I understood concept was because like I played too far to one edge and like failed or messed up or whatever. And so now that's why I have this concept because I understand what's on each side. He understood the
Compassion.
concept so well, but he had never seen like either end. So then we had to start making adjustments where I had to like set him up for failure just to be like, hey, that's why we do this other thing. And you see like the light and it's like, oh, okay. And so there is like
Mm.
for he's on the fast path. Like he was able to get so much more athletic so quickly. Like he was a not when a year difference. Like the kid was completely changed. But then after that, for him to continue to be a robust person, like now I have to introduce the failure. Like, you know the concepts, but you don't know why, and like you need to
Mm.
now know that. And so I just thought that's a cool part of it. Because,
Yeah.
however, regardless, uh, you got to mess up. Like you
Yeah,
you
it's
gotta
part
do
of the
that part. Yeah.
process. It's the quitting that then the quitting. It's basically the death
Yep.
of whatever endeavor.
But then also, if you're gonna quit something, just do it. Like quit it. Like be done with it. Like don't make it a good thing. Like you shouldn't quit exercise. You shouldn't quit. You have to work. Yeah, there's like certain things you have to do, right? But like, I guess if it's just like if there's a behavior that you do that you don't like, or your relationship or something that you don't like, then just quit. Like don't think twice about it. It is like quit or don't quit. Like those are the two. Don't dabble.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Makes complete sense. So, your struggles with opening the gym. So, I'm actually very interested in that because I feel like most people maybe would have just thrown the towel, not because, oh, I mean, there's hardships all the time, but that was such a unique time in life where a lot of people had to figure out like what is a pandemic.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like, the whole world? Like, not just my home, not just my community, not just my city, not just my state, not just my country, like the world. And having to stop and figure out how to live in this uncertainty. We don't know how long we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how long this is going to take. We know nothing. And the
Yep.
fact of knowing nothing, that creates some sort of chaos in a sense because because you don't know. And particularly for you, that you guys are 8 months into being gym owners, and you're adjusting to this new lifestyle. You're learning these, figure like getting your gym together. I'm sure you have plans of, hey, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna grow it, whatever. And then you come at a hard stop. So you guys, I'm sure you guys had to close the gym
Yep.
down. So
Yep.
what do you guys do while the gym is closed? I know your wife Googled for kind of get some help.
Yeah, and so that was way like a year and a half after
Oh,
that. Yeah,
after.
yep.
Okay.
And so in this period,
Oof.
we rent out like all the equipment in the gym. Like if you remember, you got to come get equipment to go home, and then we would put out workouts for people to do at home, and like leave it to where whatever equipment they have, they could like utilize. But we're doing our best, and like I would try to be available if people wanted to call and chat or whatever. Honestly, like it was tough because I didn't know what I was doing and what direction to go. Um, one of the like we've had community, like not community, we've had people issues that come. That's part of business. Like that's something that's going to happen, especially when like in the beginning our hearts were way too open in like some aspects, like vulnerable, like leaving yourself open to be hurt. Um, but so we ran out of the equipment. Honestly, what I was, is I have videos, like I worked out, like I've trained a bunch. Uh, Kelsey and I had literally started the Whole 30 like right before it happened, and we just carried it on. And so while the world is shut down, like we both got in like I think it was one of the best shapes like I've ever been. Like I mentally a wreck, like not good. But and it's funny because I was laughing. I have videos of me like doing workouts and stuff, and I'll go start the camera, and it's the saddest person you've ever seen looking into the camera, and then going to do it like workout stuff. But like it's good. Like I like looking back at it because it's like, oh man, like when you have a tough day, you go look at that, and it's like, ooh, there's nothing compared to those. Like those were bad ones. Well, so we just woke up and like kept doing it every day and doing what we could. We got to reopen. We lost like all the coaches, and so now all of a sudden, like I would wake up at 3:30 in the morning, get in the car, drive to the gym, coach everything, shut down at 8, leave the gym by like 8:30. I'd get home a little bit after 9, go to bed at 10, wake up at 3:30 the next day, Monday through Friday, and so like it was just work. And I'd love to say that like I just had this like idea that I would just keep plugging away, and like I didn't know what else to do. Like I would just go to work and everything, but also to start like I was looking for other jobs. Like I was like, man, I'm gonna have to do something. And luckily, throughout the first little bit, anytime I would start actively like pursuing getting another job, something good would happen to the gym, and like we'd have an injection of cash that I was like, okay, I can at least like I know that we're gonna eat for a little while, and so like I can go back to trying to focus on this thing. And that was the path for a long time until the mentorship, and
Mm.
that helped us establish um a sales process of like how people find the gym, call the gym, interact with the gym, come meet the gym. Like uh we used to just like I would basically not talk to you that much and just be like, cool, come try a class. Like we'll see if you'll make it. To the point of where now like real conversations, bringing them in and like we sat down like this and like I reversed the roles of what we're doing here. Like tell me about you. Like why are you here? What are we doing? Getting to know a person, letting them know that like we're this is a people place, not a gym place. Like we're gonna like we're interested in you as a human, and like let's go about it that way. I'm not trying to get you to rip your hands on the pull-up bar or be able to walk upside down. Like you just like come in, like trust us, come do this thing. And so that's cool. Like that helped us a lot in getting people started. We started a after that like a everyone starts with personal training. So instead of just coming in and getting thrown into class, your first 2 hours are one on one with the coach, and it reduces the amount of you're going to be sore after your first time. So it reduces the amount of soreness. You're not a stranger in a room full of people doing strange movements and strange words and all this different stuff. So that helped. Like okay, that helps like our entry process. Uh, Put a big emphasis on like hiring coaches and putting into our coaches and like making sure that they are continuing to like be educated, but more than like are they having fun? Are they having a good time at their job? And like coaches come and go, and that's part of it as well. That was really helpful. We changed some of our like personal training rates. We changed some of our nutrition rates to be more just like reflective of the work that we were doing. Um,
It sounds like you were giving more value to the you were investing, sorry, in the people. You were figuring out ways of how to help people ease into a whole different lifestyle.
and I'm glad you said that word because I do think that's the biggest like I even before meeting them, we have a client who's a very successful businessman, and I asked him if I could take him to lunch one day. Uh, and like I sat down and I told like, and I meant this when I said it. Like, I don't want to sell people. Like, I want you to want to come to the gym. And he was basically like, "You better stop that. Like you have to sell yourself. Like that's what you have. Like you whether you wanted to or not. Like you may not know this, but that's the job that you just got into. And so like." You're not a coach. Like you need to like you got to sell people on the gym. Uh and I struggled with that. And that was like the big part of where I think that the mentorship came in and helped a ton was
Mm.
like no, like you just have it bad in your head. Like you have to pursue and like actively pursue trying to help these people and like you just get paid for it. And like that's just how it works. Like
Mm.
you can't support your family, you don't get to continue to go out and do these things. Like if you truly think that you're helping people, then you owe it to them to like make it sustainable for yourself. And the way that we were doing it was not sustainable. Uh so that was very helpful in just like changing how you view certain things. Like I wanted I wanted to help to the point of where like I would discount my service, and if we had done that for too long, I wouldn't have been able to stay there. And now I help zero people.
Right.
And so it is like I used to hear coaches or people say like Spartan race is the thing of like I want 1,000,000 people to run our race because that means they got off the couch and went and ran the race. And when I first used to hear that, I'm like, no, you want 1,000,000 people to buy your tickets. Like it's all about money. And it's like no, like they like will they get paid for that? Like 100% because they're providing an excellent value to people. And so find out what your value is and then like charge for that value. Like they no one is putting a gun to their head and like making them go run that Spartan race. Spartan has just done such a good job and made such a compelling thing that they're like, no, I want to go run that obstacle course race, and it's enough of a motivation to get up from like the lifestyle that they were living and like start walking to running to go do obstacle course stuff. And it's just like the same happens in CrossFit and any of these different things. But so Two Brain, like that's one of the best things that like ever happened to our business. And like uh we're still with them today. Talked to our mentor on Wednesday or Thursday, and like it's awesome. Like they own gyms, they've done it, like they're very successful in what they do, and like it's just really cool. Uh like coaches need coaches. Like we are actively getting coaching. Like didn't know how much I needed it until like
You needed it.
I realized that I have an expertise, and then you got to start seeing that in other people, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah. Like, do I have to pay? I pay them every month, and like, it's not a cheap amount, but I know, like, I write that check and know that, like, it's like, oh, okay, every time I write that check, I double that back to me. So it's like, yeah, and it's tough for a while. Like, you do it for a while before you make any money, but it's like, believe in it. The second thing, like, and I think that this influences and like will continue to push the direction that our gym goes. Kelsey being in psychology and like she is a counselor now, that's what she does is therapy with people. We always had the idea of like at some point having a facility that did both mental and physical. Like come in and like do therapy, and a part of the therapy is exercise and like having this whole thing. And like it'd be like it's a really cool idea. And so because of that, and then my dad and his dad were both alcoholics, and so I grew up going to AA meetings, and so like addiction was something that like I at least was aware of. I knew that it was around. Right when we first started the gym, uh, this dude comes in. He's got tattoos all down his arms, his neck's all tatted up. He's got face tattoos, and his name's Campbell Lillard. You should look him up on Instagram. He's an awesome guy. But he came in. He was like, "Hey, I work for this organization called the Phoenix. We're in sobriety. What we look for is organizations where we can come in and do like a free workout for people who are clean and sober. And so the only cost to come do it is be 48 hours clean. If you're 48 hours sober, you can come work out. And so we do that every Friday at 6. But it started with him, and it started there. Um, and so this Phoenix organization, we partner with them in doing this, and we meet one of their like directors, and he ends up becoming a part of the gym, and then he ends up becoming a coach. And like our partnership with the Phoenix continues to like grow. We do other things with them. They like rent out our venue for their New Year's Eve party every year. Like it's a cool thing that like we built. But he goes on, and while he's with the Phoenix, like he used to go talk to different organizations and different things. He finds this organization that works with teens who have addiction issues, and he partners or gets me in touch with them. I go out there and speak once, and we talk about like, hey, maybe they can come out and come to the gym, and so they start making visits out to the gym. Well, then that grows to me going out and seeing them, and so now multiple times a week I go to the boys' campus. We have a female coach, Ashley, that goes to the girls' campus, but we're going out and we're getting to bring fitness to them, and a couple times a month. Actually, tomorrow they'll be coming to our gym. And so I've gotten to coach, but now I get to go give to like these people who I think need it the most. Everybody needs exercise. But if you're a young person who's already running into the like struggles of drugs, there's like I don't think there's anything more powerful that you could get into than exercise. Like what you are currently chasing is a way that like you want brain chemicals. You're trying to chase this feeling, and exercise will give you a lot of the same feelings. We just have to like make that transition. And so I try to really work with them on that stuff. It's very rewarding, but it also helps the gym a lot. And so through that partnership, we've now added 3 other like locations that I go to off site. And so I go work with teens that have addiction issues. I get to go work with teens that have behavioral issues. Like I mentioned, from this point forward, I'll work with autism division. I'm about to start working with adults who have addiction issues. And we were able to so much quicker than I thought. It doesn't look the way that we had planned, but we're getting to do what I wanted to do. And we're getting to take the physical side of mental health and like understand that this won't fix every problem that you have, but I promise, like, if you'll add this into your life, like, especially while you're in these locations and take it out from here, like, this can be like your linchpin. Like, this can be the thing that holds everything together that grounds you. Uh, it's just been successful. Like, we're watching it work, and it's really cool. And I really think that we'll continue to have, like, we have personal training on site. We're going to continue to have a location, but I think that like through these partnerships that we'll continue to be able to go out and like service who in my mind like the populations who need it just the most, like the most. Yeah.
That is very impressive, and that is what we need a lot today. I mean, I don't know the number exactly, but I know that suicide is all-time high
Yep.
right now, and
Especially in teens. Uh, and it's so much of it has to do with like what we're wrapped up in our self-image and all these different things that we see. And no, like exercising will not immediately make you look a certain way, but it takes that stupid voice out of your head and like it makes you realize that like you are proud of who you are and what you are. And like you don't even have to look a certain way. Like it's just like it gives you the strength and like because you know that you're putting in the work. And like that's where I think some like at least for myself, where I start to get in a lot of issues is when like I know I'm not doing the work. Like when
mm,
I'm I need to rest a little more than usual. I can't take on this task today, or I need to wait on this until tomorrow and do that for enough days. And yeah, like you've conditioned yourself to see things and put them off. You have this pile of things that keep coming up because you've been putting them off, and like yeah, now all of a sudden you're stressed out because like you've allowed this thing to be built up. And so it's just I think
I
it's so helpful.
I love it because, even earlier we mentioned how, like, the impact of, like, for example, taking it back when you were working in IT, the environment you were in. So now you guys are bringing the environment to these
Yep.
people. Maybe they have never been exposed. Maybe, like you mentioned, you had no idea of, like, all these other things as all of us experience in life. I mean, we're not born knowing everything,
Yep.
right? So it's what you guys are doing is huge for the community because you are bringing this environment to the kids. You guys are bringing maybe that aha moment, and maybe they may not fully realize it right now to the fullest, but you guys are essentially changing lives.
Trying. And like what I'll say to hopefully try to temper how much praise was in that, like where it like what find a problem like what are you like there's so many problems in the world and like we're so good at talking about them on social media and doing all these different things. If you'll like what I found is if you'll find a problem and like if you can actually like go start trying to help it. And like I'm not in any way tricking myself that like will like necessarily change the entire world. But like changing one of these kids that means that like they stay clean and sober and that gives them the chance to go out and then influence another kid who's struggling with addiction. Like that train can keep going and like that can like have quite a bit of a rippling effect. But more than any of that, I've found the thing that I think that I can do to help like move it and I really focus on that. And what that means is that I have way less time to focus on all this shit that like I can't do anything about. Like very few conversations in our home about what's coming up in the upcoming presidential election or what's going on in the Ukraine and Russian war. Like,
The prices of eggs,
yeah, I don't
or
know. I like we buy eggs. Like I know that every week when I go to the grocery store, I'm gonna keep buying them. Like whatever the
regardless of
yeah,
price.
whatever it says on there. Like I'm gonna keep doing that thing. And so like you don't like if you're right now worried about like way too many things, like just focus on one of them. Like really try to go make a difference in that.
Mm.
And it like it's it is tough because like in part of that, it's way less about the coaching. It's way less about like showing up with a smiling face and like trying like being a person that like can influence them or whatever. And like that, it's not easy. Like you'll find out real quickly that uh, it's a lot harder to show up and like do that stuff. And I don't know. It's just another one of those things that I think it changes your perspective and it makes you view other items a lot more generously.
And it goes back to compassion.
Yep, yeah, 100%. It makes you a more compassionate person. Like, oh, like that person actually is doing a lot. And so it's cool. But it's also neat that these populations that we're going to work with, like they have found themselves in a place that they did not want to be. Um, like life has dealt them a hand that they were not prepared for, and like it got them in a lot of trouble. They, for the most part, like hopefully they're at rock bottom and like they're so like receptive to exercise and like all these different things that like will pull them back out of that. And it's like to everyone else, like don't wait for that moment. Like don't wait for the call from your doctor that like you have a heart condition or like this thing is going on. Like it's just if you'll just start doing the work now, like it makes it so much easier. Sadly, like most people need the moment. You got to find yourself in a rehab. You got to find yourself in a whatever it is in the doctor's office, like before you can start doing those different things.
I love it. So one of the other than just running a gym, you impact the community in so many different levels, such as, going and working with with the community essentially, and you offer free classes for those that maybe can't afford it.
Yep.
So you guys are literally leaders of the community because it's such an important, it's so huge today. I mean, there's so many of us, there's so many humans, but not everybody's out there to help
Hmm.
others. For whatever reasons, one of the, we're so, a lot of us are so into like our own problems, our own, that we can't really see past that. Which if you start, like I said, if you start focusing on like like getting your mental, your body, once you start feeling well, you can start impacting other small areas, starting with one at a time, like you mentioned. And that is so admirable. Like,
Well, thanks.
having options at the end of the day, having options for everyone, and doing it in at a level where it's sustainable to continue doing it and growing it. That is so impressive. And that's not even accounting, like, and me saying that, and like the struggles you had to go through to get to where the machine is finally running,
Yeah.
and going and moving and touching people, because at the end of the day, that's it, right? Like,
Yep.
touching people, even like, I hear it from a lot of moms, that their kids, they just want to be like from school to home to their video games, and like that's it. Like, no outside interacting, or much less human interacting. And COVID was such an eye opening, I feel like, for a lot of people. Eye opening, and even, uh even like, eye opening in a sense that some people like were able to see it, and for others, if they didn't really have a strong foundation, some people are broken,
Hmm.
and maybe are still trying to recover from that whole chaos, right? And so this is where people like you come into play, to kind of get everybody back in a rhythm where we can just work together, and work towards a goal, not look backwards, or, oh no, I can't do this, oh no, more so, hey, let's work on this, let's move past it, and let's grow better, let's grow together.
Yeah.
um
And I don't have any, unfortunately, I don't have any like data of what it looked like pre-COVID. Really, like 6 weeks. That's not enough. I know. Speaking of like what happened to people during the pandemic, I do have hope. Like I used to think that we hadn't seen the end of like what the lockdown and everything meant, but I think like it's maybe like I think we're maybe getting to the tail end of it. And so I say that as 2021, 2022, the people that came in to the gym and like to talk to me, broken people. Like you could read it on them. Like you could like you could feel the stress. Like you could see it in the way they moved and all these different things. And that the level of people coming in like that is lower. Like
mm,
across the board, like it it like it raised the level of everyone. Like no one didn't feel something during that time. I think for some people it was like depending upon what you were involved in or what you were doing, like the level was higher. Uh but I watched broken people come in, and like we're at least seeing it seems less of that. Like which is good,
yeah.
but it yeah, I don't know. It's
it well, the thing too, well, let me ask you this, like, what do you how do you cultivate the culture in your gym? Like, how do you nurture it so that, because you and Kelsey are not the only members or the
Yep.
only trainers
Yep.
at the gym, right? So you have other trainers, and so in a sense, like it's a culture, it's a community. So what do you and Kelsey do
Sure.
to cultivate that community? The trainers that ultimately kind of waters down to everybody else.
So starting with like the staff, like our other trainers, is coaching them and allowing them to know like what the ultimate vision is and like what we're trying to do in the gym. And like to put an example, I want like at a base level, you obviously have to know like body mechanics and how to help someone like move better. But we don't need to, I'm going to say some like fancier words. You don't need to focus as much on like helping someone have a perfect power snatch as much as you need to make sure that like they like are coming into the gym 5 times a week or 3 times a week, whatever that number is. And so like have less focus on the skill and like the actual workout part and have more focus on like engaging with this person and making them come. Because like it is the if you want to learn how skills, you're going to navigate towards that on your own. Like it's just the way that this is going to go. But it is hard for people to come to the gym. And so that has to be where we start. Like provide a place into where the people want to come.
Mm.
And so like how we view programming, how we talk to our coaches, and how we want everything to go fun, safe, effective. It's got to be fun. Like if you're not having fun, you'll stop coming. And like regardless of what goal you have, if you stay consistent for long enough, like you will hit it. I've seen it in everything like physicality wise. Uh Next is safe because like if you get hurt and you have to take time off or whatever, one it like may change your mind on like the whole exercise part of it. But regardless, you're going to take time off, you're going to degrade and you have to build back from that. And so like, we don't want people to get injured. And then lastly, effective. Most things are effective. Like, and so if you'll stay consistent and you'll stay injury free, like the efficient part, that's pretty easy.
That's
And
gonna
so like,
come naturally.
that's the part like, it's so much. And I've went for the same thing. And like, as a beginner in anything, you feel like you don't have expertise, but you have to show it. And like that's why your ego is like that you have an empty vessel, and so you try to bolster it. Uh, and you want to talk about the finer intricacies of this movement, and the people in your class are wondering what they're gonna have for dinner. Like they don't care. And that helped from like getting involved and starting to talk to members and like, why do you come to the gym? And it's like, oh, I need to sweat 3 times a week, my doctor said, and then I'm healthy. And it's like, oh, you don't care about competing in like CrossFit or whatever? And they're like, no. And it's like, oh, okay. You have enough of those and you start to like put together a picture. And so it's like, that's a big part in getting them to learn that way. The actual community part is it's actually quite simple and it takes care of itself. We used to have the easy entry process. You call us, I'll throw you into a class or whatever, you get started. Um, we want, we, the amount that is charged at the gym to like become a member is because you're getting access to our coaching. So I need you to like want that. You need to want coaching. You need to understand the value of coaching. And so we don't have this in place to teach that lesson, but the personal training in the beginning of like everyone that starts the gym has to go through this personal training is basically the only gate that we need as far as our community. A lot of people will come in, they're like, no, I'm a really good athlete, I don't need to do this. They probably weren't going to have a very good like attitude in the class. They were going to be in there more to like show off instead of be a part of the community. And so
Find friends, maybe.
yeah, and so they won't join. And so then we don't ever have that problem. And so what we
Mm.
do then instead have is a bunch of people coming in and joining who want coaching, who understand like what it is that we're offering, and then they come in and they integrate very well with the community. And you learn that through experience. Like you think in the beginning you want the people who like are ready to hard charge exercise and stuff. And if you build an entire community of that, like that's one thing. It's just very hard to do. And it doesn't usually like co-inspire with the other group. We, as part of our mentorship, they do a study. There's this programming level or programming thing. So programming is like the exercise plan that a gym follows. It's called level method. And so they've taken exercises, the different movements and different weight schemes that you might see in like CrossFit or functional fitness, and they've put like belts around it, basically like you would see in jiu-jitsu. There's different colors, and like if you can clean 275 and do 5 muscle ups and do this other thing where then I don't know the colors and the actual parameters, but you're an orange belt basically. Um, Well, what's really cool about that is the gyms that use it, it's over 1,000 gyms in the United States. They all that data goes back to them, and they get to see how many people across the nation are in what level of fitness. And so these are CrossFit gyms, but you're still getting to see a peek inside and see what kind of people are actually in the CrossFit gym. 80% of them were in the yellow stage, which is the second stage. So they were a beginner. They could barely do past the rudimentary movements, and that is 80% of the people in the gyms. And so that's another wake up call of like, oh, who am I training? I'm not training someone to do a power snatch. I'm training them so they can pick up their groceries or pick up their grandkids and pick up like whatever it is and walk around. That's what the people are coming to me for. And once you learn that, and that's the conversations you have with people, oh, it's game changer. Like the most conversations start with me, and if you paid attention to my like social media, you noticed a big change. I used to post me working out and doing different stuff, and then the conversations I would have from older adults is like, "Oh, I see the stuff you do. It's awesome. I can't come into your gym and do that." And it's like, "Well, shit. I'm doing a thing, and I'm showing this whole other idea." And so like I had to kind of change up some of that stuff. And then you just have the conversation when they say that, it's like, "Oh, no, I'm sorry, you don't understand what we're doing. Like, if you ever want to learn, come see us. Like, here's the 3 people that are exactly like you and that already come to our gym, blah, blah, blah." And so it just helps like have those conversations instead of me try to convince you that you really do want to come learn how to do a handstand push-up. And they're like, "Oh, I absolutely do not."
I see it exactly. I see what you're saying. It's you're not trying to pull people to where you're at.
Yep.
You are meeting people where they're at, and start from there.
Yep. Build it and they will come. And that's like how that sounds is different than like what it actually looks like in like practice. Like you do have to you have to build a thing and have a direction, and like then you just have to pump that word out as much as you can. Like if you're a hard charging athlete and you want to come work out with us, like there's a place and like you'll fit in. You just also have to understand the value of the coaching part of it. Like
Mhm.
Logan goes to the 6 a.m. and like that is our competitive class. Like there's 5 to 7 dudes in there in the morning that are trying to rip each other's heads off. Like that's it. And like it works. Like that's they've found their thing, and they integrate perfectly with the rest of the folks though, because like everyone knows what we're doing. It's neat.
And it's those levels, you right? Like it's meeting like they've been through the say the beginning phases, and now it's not just, hey, I'm trying to get healthy. Hey,
Yep.
I'm trying to learn how to do these things. Now that's where the fun aspect comes into play. Now it's like they're having fun working out
Hmm.
in a different level.
It's the habit thing. Like in the beginning, we have to learn the habit of going to the gym. And like people will confuse that. I need to go learn how to do it. No, 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 no. All you need is show up. Like set up set up your life and your schedule to where 3 hours out of the week you walk into the gym. And then like preferably go do it in a place where they have group classes. Because if you're just going in to do your own thing, like you don't know what you're doing and you're not going to see any results. So like here are 3 hours that I have open and I'm going to the gym, and forget everything else. Like for the first however long it needs to be, that's your only focus. Clear every obstacle that messes with this 1 hour time frame. And eventually you'll have less obstacles. And
Break it down
then
into steps.
yep. And then from that point, like you get to now, like once you're bored and you can like look around a little bit, cool, let's add something. And like now, add a fourth day, add a complexity item, add weight, like whatever it is. Like uh it's so easy to put the cart before the horse.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. It honestly it makes I love the vision. Uh, I I love what you're doing because I think it resonates with people. It's not it's not only are you meeting them, but you're getting to know them. You're getting to understand them at a very personal level. Where do you plan on taking this to? Do you
hmm,
plan on opening more? What's your vision
sure, sure,
for
sure.
Dissent Athletics?
Yeah, right now it's still like we're still very much though in the like figuring out how this thing works. We've learned some stuff and it operates, but right now it's still yeah, we got a lot to do on the one before we ever even think of like multiple. I don't I don't fully know like the answer to that one. I know from like our mentorship practice and like the goals that we have set, there's a way that we build the gym to provide enough for us. And like my whole focus after that has always been like I would be perfectly content with keeping like the one gym we have, growing it past the point that we have it right now, and then using funding to get real estate. Like that's kind of the career path, I guess.
Hmm.
Own buildings, own homes, own different things like that, and the gym is kind of the financial vehicle to be able to go do that stuff.
I love it.
With how hard like one gym is, I don't right now see myself ever having more, but at the same time, like I'll I'll have ideas. Like I do think it's a cool maybe later in life, like 45 or 50 or whatever, instead of retiring.
Or even helping maybe other
Yeah,
future,
just having like a small, like I would like to have an even smaller community based type gym.
more
And like
people focused.
more people focused, more like having a very, very niched like thing. Like, hey, 40 people are a part of this deal. Like that's it. And then kind of have a very like putting way more rules and parameters around stuff. Like, here's the workouts we're doing, here's the direction we're going. Like, have a bunch of people do it. And I just think that would be like a neat thing. And so that may never happen, but like that's the would be a cool thing later in life. But yeah, just right now, use the gym,
Keep
buy
learning.
buy real estate, and keep going.
I like that. So if there's somebody out there that aspires maybe to become a personal trainer, or maybe even a future gym owner, but let's start with a personal trainer.
Hmm.
What advice would you give them?
Yeah. So, uh, one under like it's such a low barrier of entry. Like, if you want to do it, you should go do it. Like, it costs depending upon what direction you want to go, a couple $100 to $1,000 to go get like a certificate to be able to go coach somewhere. Um, yeah, I guess I mean the biggest like if you're gonna go do it, the biggest piece of advice I have is like no, for the longest amount of time you'll have like no clients. It's very like you expect your like friends and family and different stuff to be like some of the first people to sign up or whatever, and like they probably won't because like exercise is not something that's like it's not mainstream enough. Like it's not a fun enough thing for people to go do. Uh, and so if you were selling fat loss pills, like you'd hit up a lot more people quickly. But this route, it's a lonely road for a long time. It's like I think that's the big like don't give up. Like know that you want to do it and then don't give up. Uh if I could do it again, I would probably I would have waited a little while, I think, on buying a gym. Like I do think that like I skipped some of the coaching that I wish I could have gotten. And I had to go out and learn like a bunch of the lessons like the way harder way. And so like that would be don't like yeah, find a place and expect not to make very much money in the beginning.
Mm, mhm.
Really past that, like it most people don't make it. Like it's tough. And so if you'll I really like the personal trainers who are successful is the people who just like they walked the lonely road for the longer amount of time.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I think that is true in being a personal trainer, and I think that is true in anything pretty much else that is challenging.
Yeah. And then this is a big one for everybody. You're not going to train athletes.
Mm,
That's what everybody wants to do. No one wants to work with like the mother of two, right? Like that's not a fun thing. Athletes, especially like if they get paid like if they're a professional athlete, you're not a good enough coach. So like yeah, it's just like why how would you like pick that person up? You're not ever going to be able to like access them. Uh and then the friend that you know that like thinks they're an athlete won't pay for your service. Uh and so that's the expect not to make much money. Don't do it on your own all from the beginning. And like know that most people joining gyms are beginners. Like that should be your bread and butter. Like you should know how to take people from the couch to working out. Like how do I get you to start this? How do I get you to start this?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that. So we didn't really touch base on this, but congratulations on
Oh,
being a new dad.
thank you.
And I think you guys are. I feel. I don't even think. I feel that what you guys is what you guys are doing is so impactful. Um, And I don't even think we know much of that yet
Sure.
because uh, because you guys are touching and changing lives essentially. The way not just because you're a gym owner, but it's how you're managing your gym, the vision you have, which is getting people to live a better life,
Yeah.
essentially. And we all know that doesn't happen overnight. And that's the path that you guys are on. I support it. I love it. I believe in it.
Well, thanks.
And I wish you guys nothing but success. And I can't wait to see what you guys continue doing.
Well, thank you.
Um,
I'm excited. I am excited. Like there was a few years where like the future seemed like a pretty bad place, but now like it's cool. Like I think we got a lot of stuff coming. Having a kid, like that's a whole new awesome thing. This is a weird one, but I think like I don't know, it may be a little bit different in your realm, but what I'm like the most excited about is most most people, adults, are like the most of themselves at work, right? Like that's where they shine. Like that's the area that you're supposed to be the most. And most kids don't ever get to see that.
mm,
Where like with our line of work, our kid will like she's gonna get to watch us in our work environment. And so like I don't know if I have like the right words to say about that, but how like I'm just very excited like about that part of it. And it especially it being a style of work that like there's a lot of passion involved and like there is the service attitude of it. And so yeah, I think it'll be cool.
Logan and I were basically had the same conversation about introducing her to our daughter to to what we do and keep her involved in the activities and especially maintaining life wellness really, which I truly believe that it's very hard to do it if you don't feel good.
For sure.
Like if you don't feel good, it just snowballs into other things such as nowadays, mental health.
But for someone like this, I've from talking to you, I know that there's been a part where you didn't feel good
Yeah.
and then you started to feel good. And like that, I truly think that most people don't know that they feel bad.
Mhm.
Like you hit a point and you had to start making like changes to get to
At
like to
rock
where you are
bottom.
now. And like that is like you don't know that you feel bad until you understand what feeling good is. And like
Mhm.
if I promise that if you're not exercising and eating like real foods, you do not know what feeling good is. Cause I was the same person. Like, and I do it multiple, like I would do it throughout the year of not like exercise, but like my diet will like start to slacken and it doesn't get real bad. But as soon as I start tightening it up, like I feel that difference. I'm like, oh wow, I feel good. But
Yeah.
the feeling bad, it just happens. Like you just fall into that and like it normalizes and normalizes and normalizes.
Yes.
And so that's a
Yes.
big one. What I think that is very impressive about you two. Dang, I had something with this. I just wanted to say y'all were impressive. That was all. Uh,
Well,
no, but y'all have like just a passion, like a desire, like you got and you do a bunch of stuff, and like you do take care of yourselves, but you're also like talking about investments, like not gonna air y'all stuff, but like the different things that y'all have in operation, like y'all run businesses that I didn't even know were a thing. Like the way that you utilize just the different items that y'all, it's awesome. Like I love it, and it's so cool to see. And for her to grow up in that environment and to see like what mom and dad do, and it's the same like she'll understand that perspective and she'll know the waves of doing it, but she's gonna have to go out to college or go do different things and watch people get off work and just go sit on the couch and do nothing. And she's like, "Well, mom and dad didn't do that. Like, we
mhm.
got off work and we went and did this, and they were doing podcasts and they were doing this thing, and like it'll start to like she'll start to be able to understand why. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yes. Yes.
why she's maybe advanced or like whatever it is. Like
It
it's cool
yeah, and at the end of the day, it's we nobody is successful alone. Alone. Like it, even regardless of how you got there, I mean, you need people. You need people. So and the idea is people helping people, and if we all help each other, I think it all kind of snowballs really nicely. But actually, what I was going to get with a baby thing, it's I was going to mention, like, again, one of the other things you guys are doing, which is starting a mama kid class,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
With
Yep.
their
Yep.
children. And I think, again, it speaks to the vision. It speaks to your values of bringing people in and giving options.
Hmm.
Now, you guys are opening a class where it gives moms who cannot, maybe don't have the ability to put their kid or have their kid in daycare or have somebody watch their children. It's like, hey, this is mom and
Yep.
kids time. Let's come. We're all moms with children. Everybody's welcome, and we're all going to work out together and continue fueling that vision of promoting wellness and overall a better life, a better lifestyle. Because if you can feel better, it'll snowball to everybody else around you.
Yep.
So
It's removing obstacles.
removing
Like,
obstacles.
it's hard to work out without your kid. Bring your kid. And you're a mom with a kid. You don't really feel comfortable working out around guys, but hey, that's awesome. It's only women. Like, it's built for that. Like, and it's all based around that.
That vision.
And yeah,
And
it's at the end of the day, it's remove obstacles. Like, what are the options that prevent people from like being able to exercise and like go
and
move that thing?
and that, like, aside from all the vocabulary or all the words that maybe be said, those actions, it's actually what scream the loudest.
Sure.
It's This is what you guys are doing. This is our vision, and this is why. And somebody can say something, but their actions are, maybe they don't even show up to the gym. They just collect paychecks.
Yeah.
They're not around. They don't know the names of the members of the gym.
Well, yeah, like, I mean, you look at there's a LA Fitness like 2 miles from our gym, and I've never talked to them or got in there, but I bet that they have probably like I think most of the averages for a place like that they have like 10,000 members, and of those 90 go through the gym every day, and like there's no way that they even know the names of those 90. Like it is like, and yeah,
Yeah,
it's just it's weird.
I agree. And so I have one last question for
Yeah,
you. And unless you want to say anything else,
no.
no. What is your personal definition of happiness?
Personal definition of happiness. So the book that I referenced earlier, the happiness hypothesis, that was like there was a reason I read that book in the time that like that was when the lockdown happened and when like I had no view of like what I didn't know what like happiness was anymore. Like it was gone and I didn't know what to do. And so I read that book and it's a fantastic book for anyone to read, the happiness hypothesis. And they look at it's like 10 different ideas of success. And basically at the end of the day, what they found was like to be happy, you need to mix your like passion and work. And if we can have like they don't have to be mixed, but if you can have a passion and have work, then you're good. Like that is what humans act like we need. And so I'm constantly trying to get those two things closer together. If I can continue to make work and passion closer and closer together, then like happiness just tends to kind of take place from that. And so with that, like you just have to view like, what are the things that I don't enjoy, and how do I make myself enjoy them? And so like I love exercise. Like there's nothing more that I would rather do. Like I joke about if I had the choice between sitting down and like, hey, for the next hour, you have to like do emails or whatever it is, or you can just go run for an hour. Like I think most people would rather just like, oh, just give me the emails. Like I'll chip through that. I'll run for 2 hours. Like whatever it is. Like I don't want to sit down and do that computer work. So I program it. And like the way that I view it, like I do exercise, I lay it out for weeks at a time and like view it. And so I've taken work and put it that way. And so I'll do a week at a time and like I break it up. In CrossFit, whenever it comes down to working out, there's like strength training, there's gymnastics, and there's cardio. And so I have training, I have computer work, and then I have like projects. And so I view it in this way. And I create time slots where creative work happens. This is where personal training happens. This is where admin work happens. And
they all feed off each other.
And in doing it in this way, like one, I start to learn after lunch, I can't do anything creative. Like I don't have the same mental juices flowing anymore. So creative work has to happen like first thing in the day. I can't train someone and then go do creative work. Creative work has to take first. And like, so you start to, okay, the reason I used to struggle with doing creative stuff is because I didn't have like a slot for it. And so now it's made it more fun because like I get to do it in the time that I want to. And you watch, like, I just set up time slots instead of saying I need to write 3 blogs, 2 hours a week I write blogs. And so it took the pressure off of like making something and like maybe it being subpar so I could get done with the work faster. It's like, no, for 2 hours I'm working on this. So I may only get one done, but it'll be really good. And I'm getting to watch my abilities in these things grow. And so like it's easier for me to sit down at the computer. I'm able to get a little bit more done in the hour. And so like, I don't know, I'm getting far off from like what is happiness, but there are certain aspects of life that you have to do. And what do you do to make them like more fun? And
I
that's
love that
like,
answer.
I hate doing the dishes. And so I try to set it up to where like it's an enjoyable thing. Like I have YouTube, I got my headphones, I try to get everything to where like this thing that I do not enjoy doing, like make it fun. Like I don't like to grind. The less grinding I do, the more happy I am. And so I try to go that way. And then I'm sure that y'all realize this. Your whole thing, everything changes once you have the kid too. Like I'm the type of guy that I can go bury myself day in and day out of work, but have no like emotional ability left. Like I can't carry a conversation with Kelsey or anybody. Well, that's not fair to like my kid. Like I don't get to go burn it down and then like not be as good. And like obviously I've already flirted with the line, and then like when she cries you feel more stress and like all these things start to happen. And so it's like lights start going off my head at this point. It's like, okay, something's not sustainable. Like what are the changes that we need to like be made? And in continuing to do that, like I do get happier and happier. One of the biggest things though, like I have put a huge emphasis in the last couple of years on relationships, like having good ones. Like I through the gym, I get no less than 100 text messages a day from different people, but I've done a very good job of like, I know who of these people are contacting me because they're business acquaintances and we make each other money. These people come to the gym and view me as their coach, and I need to act in that way. And then these people are my friends and like the people that I like, genuinely care for. And you gotta be very careful on not mixing these buckets up, because if I'm coaching you, but I also get this weird idea that like I need friendship from you as well, we're gonna at some point things are gonna get crossed here. And it like yeah, I don't
Yeah.
like that to me is one of the sitting in this room, like y'all were the first people in a very long time that I broke my rule on. So I wanted to be friends with y'all. And so yeah, that was I like was it like a year and a half ago now, I think, that we went through Axes together.
Oh,
And
yes.
that was a huge thing for me. Like it was a very conflicting period of time. But yeah, I mean, it all worked out.
That's awesome. Well, I am very inspired by like your whole story, and your definition of happiness. I 100% love it, because I think that is the thing in life. It's like earth or like life. It's like an art, and you just get to paint on it, and that's literally like and that ultimately is happiness, right? And that's literally what you just said. It's work and passion, and figuring out how to intermingle those two. And like yes, if more, I feel like if more people understood that, um there would be maybe less pain,
No, for sure.
because it
And
also sets a goal, a target, something, almost like a path, like a map, like a path.
I think it helps you be like, at least for me, it helps me be less like materialistic. Like I think
Mhm.
that's where you see that come into play is like we fill the void with shiny objects, and like that there's nothing wrong with having things or liking things and wanting, like, going out and buying them, but like at no point in happiness is there like a vehicle or a home or a thing like that. Like it's the like
It
it's
will
all
be
the other
it will
ones.
be for a week until that thing is not shiny
Yeah.
anymore, and then you're gonna want the next shiny thing,
Yeah.
and then you're gonna want the next shiny thing.
Yeah.
And
And
then that's just yeah.
but then like that's just, I mean, that's the human condition. Like I have my phone's paid for by like the gym, and I needed a new one the other day, so I went and got like the newest one, and like we use it. Like I capture content on it. Like it is a work thing. Like I don't play on it all that much. But I go to these, like, I train these high school and junior high kids or whatever, and I pull it out to look at the workout, and the amount of kids, they're like, "Is that the iPhone 14 Pro Max?" And it's like, I don't even know what this is. Like,
It just has a
or
camera and it works.
yeah, they're like, they're just obsessed with the thing.
Mhm.
And then we go out and like I drive a Toyota Camry that to me means like nothing, and they're just like, oh, like it's a Camry, and like they just, and it's like, God, like at the youngest ages, that's what we're pulled to. It's just
That's
like
that's what like the social media. I feel
we
like
want
it's
things.
yeah. Sorry.
And yeah, but no, but it is. It's social media. It's the like all this different stuff. I'm getting way off on our last question. I'm a tangent person, but it like
Yeah,
you
no,
see the
it's this
traps
is
and
all great conversations because I understand exactly what you're saying, and I think it's that that's why I loved your definition of happiness because a lot of and I'm gonna focus on like the younger generation because they don't know any better, and it's our job to guide them.
yep,
How would they know
yep,
if how would they know?
yep,
And so if our job as leaders, it's to help them figure out how to pursue their passion. Everything else will kind of fall into its place. But if you don't pursue like what you're drawn to, whether it is singing, like what you mentioned at the very beginning, look, this is coming in full circle. Uh, whether it's playing instruments, whether it's fixing vehicles,
yep,
or whatever that is, it's pursuing that, and then now the challenges become more like a game, become fun, and as you start figuring out how to combine that work and that passion and continue on and what better than when you are at service to other people, improving people's lives, and yeah, it came a full circle. I love it.
cool. That's probably good then.
Thank you, Jonathan,
Hey,
for being here. I
thank you,
really
Myra.
appreciate it. It was great. Keep rocking and rolling, and we're 100% behind everything that you guys are doing. I love it. It's helping the community. It's helping everyone, and by helping the community, it waters down to helping the world, and in turn, we'll be 100. Hopefully, we'll when we're not here, people hopefully are still l- t- uh, continuing those principles that
Sure.
maybe we leave behind.
No, 100%. And I want to say the same for y'all. Like it, maybe very much in like the still the early stages, but like this is just as important. Like getting actual conversations out. Like, um, and of the maybe not the people that you see on TV, but the people that like you see walking in the grocery store, and like the person that lives down the road. And like we both know Julie, and Julieta Rodriguez, who was on here, and like she's just another single mom if you don't know any better. But if you'll stop like pulling back some of the layers and just like the robustness of that person, and like what a message like that can go out and like do for other people. And so like I feel just the same towards y'all with like this thing. I know it's a ton of work. I know that like you'll do a lot towards this, but it is like it's great. And like these are these are the things that you have to do a lot of work in the shadows if you want to do like make any sort of dent. And so like it doesn't have to be about making the dent. Like I think it's more about the work, and like it's cool. I see that in y'all, and it's fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you again, and maybe we'll
Yeah.
we'll touch up again next time.
Till next time.
Alrighty. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.